Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Tea and Trails podcast, and thanks to Outdoor Active, Veloforte, Silver, Active Route, the Centurion Running Store, Protein Rebel and SportShoes.com for supporting our community. For the price of a cup of coffee, you can unlock some great perks that will help take the sting out of what can be an expensive sport. Last but not least, thanks to all our patrons who dig deep every month and literally keep the lights hot and the mics on. Go over to Patreon and check out all the amazing deals. We are closing in on 200 Patreons. I can't believe it.
200 of you.
I'm blown away. I am truly blown away with that. Yeah, thanks everybody so much who have helped support us over on Patreon. It's been awesome. Thanks.
Episode 16, all the usual shenanigans. Brew with the coaches. Dodgy one this week. That's Brew with the coaches. Someone's taking a liberty. Some dodgy tales from the trails. I had a quick skim read of what you put in. Dad, if you're listening, you might want to gloss over this one again. It's embarrassing this week, Gary, but he has been begging to come on the podcast for months, so we finally allowed him on, Damian Hall. And you have a chance to win a pair of Scarpa trail running shoes. Woohoo! Stay tuned for all of that. Also, we are super stoked to have our first ever show sponsor.
Ta-da!
Da-da-da! Thank you very much, Silver, for supporting the podcast for the month of April. Head on over to www.silversweden.uk and check out the head torches over there. Always had really good things about Silver head torches. The battery life, the light from them, the weight. So if you are in the market for a new head torch, especially now the mornings are dark again, dear Lord and Father,
that is rough.
Go and check them out and let us know what you think. I've got a question for you to start the podcast.
Oh, okay.
Changed all the clocks in your house and car, or do you leave them like me for a whole year and spend the whole year just adding the hour on?
Yeah, we had a little tantrum last night. Esme was looking at the clock on the fireplace and it was the old time, and she thought she thought she had loads of time to do her homework, and a penny dropped, and she lost an hour.
I think it's tougher on the kids because they lose that hour. Not only then, like Sunday night, I was like, bedtime, and they're like, what? Bedtime?
Yeah.
Feels like 6:30.
Yeah.
And then the Monday morning getting them out, because our kids have to get up early anyway, but it was like 5:45 normal time, but the hour ahead. I literally had to dig them out. There was no breakfast conversation. And then last night they're so tired, and then it's like, and now, and they think it's an hour. They've got an hour more. Like,
what do you do? Do you change your clocks or do you leave them?
Bryn's away this week, so it's a man's job, Gary. I know it shouldn't be, but I don't know how to change the oven clock. We've got like 2 oven clocks. I'm looking the kitchen one. Oh, look, the one behind me.
Well, I don't trust iPhones and stuff.
Changed. He slowly works his way around the house. But the car ones, who knows how to change the clocks on their car?
I'll do that in a couple of months, I think.
Couple of months. There's also, I try to change it as I'm driving, and it goes, you are not allowed to fiddle with the settings while driving. I'm like, why? It's multitasking.
But I don't even trust, on that first night, I don't even trust my iPhone that it's going to change to the correct time. So I have about 5 alarms going off that night, just if I need to get up early.
On the Sunday too for something, skiing something. And I got up, I was doing all the morning chores, and Bryn came down with his hair everywhere, just his pants on, what are you doing? I'm like, the clocks have gone forward. He's like, oh my God.
Yeah. Sunday we did an early run. I think I met my friend at about 7 o'clock. So we lose that hour. So I was up about 5:30 in the morning to get myself together for that.
Do you know why they do it? Do you know why we still do it?
Not why we still do it. I know it's something to do with the farmers, but why we still do it?
I thought it was something to do with the farmers, but we had a little Google at tea time last night because one child was asking, and it's actually back to pre-war times when energy saving, so that you didn't have to put the lights on so much in the evenings. But I thought it was something to do with the farmers. Now someone will know. Someone will message me and say, Eddie, you're wrong. Everybody loves it when they can tell me I'm wrong about something, especially my children.
I thought it was the farmers. I don't mind. Yeah, let us know. Let Eddie know.
Right, what's up? How you doing? How many miles did you run last week? No, I'm interested in the miles. What happened with the bird?
Bird was saved. Awesome. Really happy ending to the story. And patience. It was good old patience that saved the day, really. I did my best trying to harass it out of the chimney, up the top, sticking little fishing nets that I had in the house, little children's fishing nets.
Random, totally random, but let's go with it.
But he didn't want any of that. And I just left it alone for left it alone for a couple of hours. Rex was such a star. He quite excitable in the morning when I didn't realize what was going on. He was just barking at the fireplace. I thought we had a ghost. I thought we had like a poltergeist because he kept picking up little. We've got these little trinkets we picked up on our travels, little dolls from Finland or this hedgehog that we've bought from somewhere. So Rex was just randomly picking them up because he didn't know what this noise was. So it was really strange. What the hell is going on with that fireplace? But ultimately, yes, just patience. It came out in the house, flew around, smashed itself with every window possible, and then eventually kind of ran to the patio and it flew out the back. But what was really sad, when I went out for my run, I looked up on the house and its friend who was waiting for it didn't realise it had escaped and was just sitting on top of the roof on its own.
Did you say he's gone, mate?
He's gone.
You think they're reunited? Hope they found each other.
Yeah, they are. But this is hopefully the story doesn't kind of recreate itself because now I think they want to nest on my chimney because they keep coming back to the roof. Who wouldn't? But I think that's quite common, isn't it? When it's cold with fireplaces, I think, but we don't have a working fire.
Put a little bit of mesh fencing over the top of your...
Yes, I should do that, shouldn't I? I should do that. But yeah, every time I hear this kind of bird squawking, it's like, oh
my God, it's fine.
But yeah, happy to report the bird, it was saved. And yeah, I was really worried because when it came, this is the thing. So when it came out of the chimney, was it going to be injured? What the hell was I going to do with it then? And then it's like I said, it flew off a few windows, but it just flew off. It's fine. All happy. But yeah, training. So training Monday was a bit of a write-off. And I was annoyed, but I did a good thing, so I had to just get over that. And I moved on pretty quick. The details, I don't do like the details. I'm reverted back to Garmin because Strava always robs me of a few miles. So 93 miles of movement. So some of that would be walking, 20 hours of exercise and over 12,000 feet of vert. Quality sessions. I mentioned I was going to do that, like a medium long run with 6 miles at marathon. Well, it wasn't what I used to run marathon pace at, but it was in that it was in that zone 3. And I enjoyed that. Things happened that I lost my running companion on Wednesday. So I thought, just got to own this, suck it up, do it my own. It's going to be a bit tougher without the company. And it was fine. Got it done. And it was really good. And then later on in the week, again, I was just chasing stuff in the week. So I kind of modified my long run to be this long run, but with 6 times kilometer 1K efforts. Yeah, all of the trails. So it was really good. I got quite a lot of elevation. But what I did do stupidly, I fueled before, fine, but during the quality part of that workout, I didn't take on any nutrition. And then when I was doing the easy miles, I was hanging.
You were regretting that. I know that. It's like if I do hill reps and I end up like 3 or 4 miles from home, and I haven't got any fuel, any water, and I'm like, Yeti.
We were out for a few hours, so it was a long time out. But the 6 times 1K were fine, but just that last, we've got these 2 hills, and we call them the pendulums. So we just go run up, kind of fast hike, jog up, and then run down. So it's easy effort, but wow, I was empty. The tank was empty. 2 strength sessions, 2, only 1 down the gym. So hopefully I can improve on that. And, my knee, we talked a little bit off air about collagen, and I'm not too sure if it is the collagen or if it's just accumulation of lots of good habits that I'm doing currently. But my knee is on a pain level, I'd say it's 0 out of 10. Unless I'm doing, I went to the gym yesterday and I was doing some lunges, and I could feel my left leg is definitely still a bit weaker than my right leg. But 0 out of 10 for that.
That's good. I'll just add on to that. We had a message from Kate Slat on Instagram saying, sliding into DMs, love it. She's a chiropractor and started taking collagen in her coffee in the morning 5 years ago, the pain she used to get in her knees after running has gone, and the aches I used to get in my wrists from work have also gone. And she also says, I did also start doing some climbing and a load of hiking, so maybe it's a bit of a mixture, but she's building up her kilometers, and she definitely thinks that the collagen has helped.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. I'm not going to change it,
I did think it's about 6 weeks since you started taking it.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I just caught a look of my hair, which looks like
Candy floss.
Back to the Future. Again. Oh my God, now I've seen it. I can't unsee it. Sit back. We've got Damian coming on. What's he going to think? I've done my hair for him. Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Kate. I always like a message, a good positive story. I definitely think we should try that because God, getting up this morning, the aches and pains of hobbling. Do you hobble down the stairs in the morning? Is it just me? It's
takes
so
me a little
bad.
while.
I have to go sideways down the stairs.
Oh, I'm not quite that bad.
It's so bad.
It's when I sit down. If I sit down for a long period of time and then stand up, it's like, whoa.
I have quite a lot of messages from people saying, from clients saying when I sit down and then I stand up, I'm like, do not worry, you're in the right place. Maybe we all need collagen.
But I do feel a bit kind of nervous endorsing something. I don't know why, but so it is like, I think a mixture of everything.
I don't think it's you're not endorsing drug use.
True. That is true.
You know, you're not saying that I'm smoking the stuff and it's really helping me out, guys.
But it must be about 40, 45 days. I did have a little gap because I ran out and the Protein Rebel guys sent me some more stuff. But yeah, definitely going to keep going with it.
Can you get some sent over here? Come on, sort me out, Gary.
I'll put it on the pile. We need to have a chat about how we're going to get this creative stuff over to you. But yeah, you know, I'm very diligent with my multivitamins, the vitamin B and the vitamin D.
So good at this.
I'm pretty consistent with going to the gym once or twice a week and then doing stuff at home too. And I'm also crushing sleep, mindful to get in bed kind of 9:30, 10-ish. So I think it's a mix of everything. But yeah, definitely going to carry on taking the collagen. And what I've done, I can't remember if I mentioned it last week. I did actually. Yeah, I've stopped coffee strength caffeine. Oh,
okay.
And yes, tea, it must be quite a lot weaker. I'm either just going through a real purple patch with my gut. Is that even a thing? But no coffee. I've not had a cup of proper coffee for maybe 7 or 8 days now. And yeah, my gut is fine. And I've found decaf coffee and it's not too bad. So yeah.
Does it taste different?
Well, I couldn't taste it. I've made cups for Lisa and George and none of them have called me out and said, oi, Thwaites, this is not good enough. So yeah, everybody seems to be happy. Lisa said she wanted a normal coffee because she needed a caffeine boost. But
she did give a decaf.
Slipped it in. She didn't really. She did say afterwards that she didn't feel the boost after the coffee, but she never noticed any difference in the taste. So yeah, I'm going to carry on with that and carry on with the collagen. And I'm just super stoked that my knee, it's not 100% better. Like I say, I do feel it if I'm down the gym, but all in all, yeah, I'm going in the right direction with that. You
totally are. You are destroying this.
Yeah, all in all, a pretty good week. And I did a bit of nostalgia. I listened to another podcast and they mentioned...
What? Which other podcast?
Trail Runner Nation.
Oh my God, this is how it starts.
And they talked about running with a bottle. Do you remember handheld bottles, running with handheld bottles?
I never could get on with holding a bottle. I do not enjoy it. Tires my wrist up.
Yeah, and it's like half a litre of water is quite heavy. So when you first set out, and I do remember running with a bottle, and I just thought, God, if I had to do that now.
But Western states, I think loads of people run with bottles, don't they? Because it's so hot, you don't want to pack on. So you have to train if you've got how you're going to carry your fluids.
The thought of doing that now on a race would be horrendous. Not a fan of bottles.
Not for Dragon's Back. You need all your hands for your 6 points of contact over Crib Gok. Cannot.
I still, you know, when I said once about when I said on the Bob Graham round about 4 points of contact, and I still shudder when I think
it's good. I've let it go. It's good. I've let it go.
Yeah. You're good like that. But yeah, I've had a good week. How has your week been?
It's not been too bad.
Hey.
We've had a couple of weeks where we've moaned a bit. And though I still moan a bit, because I just do. I just moan about generally training and life. But I managed, a pretty good week. I did my hill reps. Woo! And I've just done so what I'm doing and experimenting on myself. 1 week I do hill reps on the road where you can get quite fast, even though it's quite steep. Some bits of it is so much easier on concrete than boulders and trail. And then so I do I call it the starter pack. And then I do the next week on the trail, and then I try and move it onto the road the week after. So today I did 4 by 8 minutes on the trail, and it is the corner of death where I start is 40% round the corner, Gary. It's so steep. So my legs are just hanging. I start off, I go round the corner, I'm like, I'm done.
And you're good in that as well.
Yeah, so I can't get my heart rate up because my legs are like the lactate in my legs. And then I did 8 minutes. I spend the next 6 minutes going, oh my God, my legs feel so heavy. But I'm not very good at running fast on steep stuff. I'm too good at going to a hike. So I did that this morning. The path was so icy. So I was going up, it was fine. And then coming down already going, and then on the ice.
Oh, wow.
It was tough. It was ask yourself the question, Eddie. And I was really grumpy with the kids this morning. Everyone will know this, relate to this, when you know you've got a session to do and you're like, just don't want to do it. Just don't want to do it. Anyway. Got it done. Put on some good old Disney classics. Got it done. I also upped my 3.
Little princess.
Disney classics. I did my 8 by 3 minutes on the treadmill, and that felt much easier the week before. I'd done 6 and 8. I kept it at the same speed, though. I wanted to run a little bit faster. I was like, oh, this week I'll do 10 by 3 minutes, and then next week I'm going to go back to 6, but I'm going to go faster. And
10 by 3 minutes.
10 by 3 minutes, but I'm going sort of like just faster than marathon pace-ish, best marathon pace. So I'm going at like 6 minute. I never like to talk about pace because I don't like people to ever feel
effort. That's why they talk about effort these days.
So I go on my heart rate on my treadmill as well because I'm never entirely sure if treadmills are accurate. So I go up to like just tempo pace. So it's not too bad. But it's the volume of it is quite a lot. When you get to 6, you're like, but I also think it's a good mental strength session as well, working through 10 reps when you start and you're a bit tired.
Especially on the treadmill.
Especially much harder. I did want to take them on the road, but I always try and save that session to when I've got kids at home and I can't get out because it's a good use of time. But I also think it's easier on the road because 3 minutes goes really quickly. On the treadmill, oh my God, that last minute is definitely half an hour sometimes. I'm like, this is half an hour. So I was happy to get those done, come out of them unscathed. That's my biggest thing as well. This morning when I did my hill reps, I was like, I could do one more. That's how you're supposed to leave it, though, isn't it? I always think that when I finished as well. And then I think you've just done that last one going, I never want to do these again. Oh my God, where's the time? And then no, leave it, Eddie. It's so leave it there, leave it be, as I say to the dogs. And I left it there. Give me some more energy for us today. I managed at last to get my longest run post spine in 3 hours. And the way the week panned out, I had to do it on Sunday. I hate leaving my long run till the end of the week. I hate it. I much prefer to have like a sort of Saturday if it's got to be at the weekend, or a Thursday or Friday. Anyway, I chose the one day of the week. It was it was so wet. I cannot even describe how disgusting the weather was. It was absolutely like this freezing, sleeting snow.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Oh my God, it was horrible. Everywhere was like a bit sleety underfoot, snowy. And also there's only one place I can really run, so I'm just running the same bit every single day. And then to run it for 3, oh my God, it was mentally like I was not in the game.
Hurt your face, doesn't it, that coldy sleep?
So I put like my big buff, and then I put one of the kids' baseball. I literally had like this little pee hole for my eyes. Anyway, after about an hour and a bit, I was like, I'm going home. I'm so cold. Everything was so cold. I kept finding different hills to run up to try and get a bit of blood into my legs, and I kept running ski lifts and across bits of piste, and I was like, there's nobody even skiing. It's so disgusting. But I'd made the kids go ski training, so like I can't go back because they will be raging if they know Mama's cut it short. Anyway, when I had to just run downhill, being a mum of 3, I have to go for a wee before I run downhill, otherwise it's all hell breaks loose. I was like, I'm going to have to take my gloves off and pull my leggings down, and everything was so wet. But I hadn't seen anyone, so I was like, this will be fine. Anyway, then it did pulled limited down, you'll know, like limited clothes down, literally just stuck my bum out. And then I took my gloves off. Anyway, my hands were so red and cold, I couldn't pull my leggings back up. I got myself in such twist. I was like, if someone comes around the corner now, I was like hopping all over the trail, my bum bouncing. Could not get my leggings back up. I just couldn't. I was like, oh my God, what?
It's triggering. I know how cold that is. It's horrible.
Actually, but they weren't. They were all twisted. I ended up getting terrible chapping in places you shouldn't.
Oi. Only had some cream for that.
And I couldn't get my gloves on because they were just sodden. They're waterproof gloves. Useless. I could not get them back onto my hands. I was like pulling at them. And then, you can't get like your little finger in. Oh my God, I was so sad. This is worse than the spine. This is worse than the spine. Anyway, I did it, but I was so cold. Got home and we'd said to the kids we'd go out for lunch. And they said, we've got no spaces inside, so you can only sit outside.
Oh my goodness.
This is a terrible day. And I was like, kids, should we go somewhere else? I'm like, no, we want to go here. We'll be fine.
I'm going to sit outside and freeze.
Ordered a veggie burger, but I was like so cold and I couldn't even eat it, Gary. I was like, this is terrible. Anyway, wine. It was done. Managed to put some biking in for recovery as well. Couple of nice skis and tons of bloody yoga. So I finished my challenge. I'm starting my next one, but I'm not just giving myself a bit of grace with it now. I managed to do 30 days, but it was quite an effort to fit in that extra 20 to 30 minutes every single day.
Yeah.
So I am, if I can't fit it in, I'm not going to beat myself up about it, but I'm definitely carrying on with it. And I love how many people on my Strava feed are now doing bloody yoga.
I think it's great. You've inspired loads of people to do it.
I've inspired a nation. Well,
let's
not get too but yeah, still loving it. A couple of people have asked what I'm going to do. So I am now I've downloaded her app, which is called Do What Feels Good, Find What Feels Good. Like that, in case anybody's watching on YouTube. Dog, yeah. It's a nice dog and it's amazing, and you can like schedule when you're going to do your yoga. There's loads of really good. So I'm doing the Rise 7-day classes next. And what's nice about the app, if you're thinking, just carry on, the YouTube is free, so I think you have to pay a little bit for the app, but the app, she just talks, so you don't have to watch the video, which is quite nice if you want to just get into your yoga vibe. So yeah, I'm going to definitely carry on with that. Now I just need to add collagen to the whole mix, and I'll be like the most flexible person that there is.
That's good. Good improvement. I think we're both on a little upward trend at the moment. I like it.
It's about time, Gary. Let's face it. Bear with us for this one, guys. This week's Brew with the Coaches, Gary from East Durham. He wants to be a better cross-country runner. I think we recorded this a little while ago now. I don't think you're bothered about being a better cross-country runner now. But this is great because we talked to you all about how to get a little bit stronger up the hills. And we've also seen you putting in practice, which I love. Ask for advice, listen to it, and then do it.
Yes. I am abusing my position this week.
Are you actually a Patreon? Because this is a Patreon perk, Gary. So we can't answer this unless you actually.
One from that one, yeah. But Gary from East Durham asks, straight to the point, why am I so shit at running fast uphill cross country? Please help. I'll give you a bit of a background. So 10K roughly cross country, and then when we're on, say, flats and it's runnable, and I'm saying fast within my group of peers who I find myself running around within the race, and it ends up being a bit of a yo-yo. So when we're running, say, on a downhill or a flat, I seem to hold my own and maybe move up a few places. But as soon as we hit a hill, unless my effort skyrockets, I seem to lose those places too. And I'm just not really, I don't want to just accept this is a weakness of mine. I'd love to be able to think maybe next season I could improve on that. Yeah, any help, please, guys? Come on, Eddie.
I think you just give up, Gary. Just don't do the courses with these hills. Right. No. So running uphill fast is quite different technique to running up at say UTS, and it was a bit of a runnable climb and you can tap out a climb. You're sort of using a different energy system to one that in a cross country where your heart rate is already quite high and you're going to ask it to go a little bit higher. Ask yourself the question, Gary, how much do you want it? So I would say the first thing you need to do is practice this. How much in training do you actually practice running with the high heart rate? So maybe doing a tempo flat and then into a hill and then holding on. It's basically lactate threshold training. So you've got the lactate and you're carrying on holding it. A really good session to do this, and a lot of the top elite runners do this, Gary, so you'll be in good company, is basically everything. You need everything to be able to run up a hill fast. You need endurance, you need strength, you need speed, you need the ultimate combination, but you also need the power. And that's probably something that you don't do a ton of work in, power. It's a really good thing to practice. Also a really good way to practice your form, which we've talked about as well. A power session where you're not getting super fatigued, but you are working right up to that top level and then you're stopping. So something like 8 lots of 30 seconds up a reasonably steep hill. So by the time you get to the top of that 30 seconds, you are literally and then a really slow jog back down as well. So you're working on holding that form, power, learning those big glute muscles that you've got, telling them that that's how they need to work. And then hopefully when you get to the race, you'll be like, oh yeah, they know this is the time. They're that engine and they're going to push you off. So I'd say it's also a really good session that you can do. It doesn't limit other sessions because it's so short.
Well, yeah, would that be maybe at the end of an easier run? Then I do that. Sometimes I do strides now. Would I do that instead of strides?
You could definitely, as long as the next day you haven't got something heinous. But if you've got a couple of days easy, it's a really great session to do. It takes a bit of learning to get the right power. I know when I've given it to clients, they're like, that was pretty easy. And I'm like, whoa, my friend, you've not done that right. It is when you do it, it's not exactly pleasurable. But it's a really good way to fire up those muscles because you've got all the ingredients to be able to run faster uphill. You've just almost got to teach the body how to do it and not to be scared of that bit of pain.
Because I suppose the climbing across country on the Harry League, yeah, they probably are about 30 seconds, 35, 45 seconds. They're not enormous climbs. So yeah.
It might be as well as this a little bit of studying of the course is that before you approach that hill, you almost back off a little bit, let that heart rate drop a little bit. So you're not approaching it at max out and then you've got somewhere to go. Because however much training you want to do, if you're getting to it at quite a high heart rate, you're going to go backwards. So running through those hills as well.
I love that. How about you, Trish? Any tips?
It's funny actually because I had a very short build up for the arc, and that was one of my key quality sessions that I did in the short time frame I did have to maximize what I could get done prior to the arc. So I really recommend that session. That's essentially that was one of my key sessions that I did sort of in build up, and I find it really effective actually in quite a short time period. Like Eddie said, if when you said there, those guys were like, oh, it's it was fine. If you do that session properly, it's not fine. You are not okay. But I massively rate that. And I think the other thing as well is mentally checking in with consistency. So it's finding your flow uphill. So for me, I think once you do that kind of session, it's much easier to dial into where your flow is.
Get that cadence up, isn't it? It's quicker to get the cadence going.
Yeah, so finding your flow, and then mentally, like I think hills are just mental. You've got to commit. You're getting in there, and you know, make the hill your friend, and that's how I do it. I think make the hill my friend. Do those key quality sessions, and then, you know, hopefully we'll be running up mountains like Russell in a few.
Yes.
few
Oh,
months.
is that Russell the Paddy Buckley winter round? We should go to this guy. This guy must have the answers. Trish, what are we talking about?
Oh yeah, save the best to last. Come on then, Russell.
Another year.
Hit me off.
I don't know if everyone heard what Eddie just said. We need to repeat that I am the Winter Paddy Buckley record holder. So just to clarify. But I got lots to say about this as always. I'll try and keep it brief. Yes, totally agree with
Let me get my notebook.
These guys.
Go.
Yeah, I know. It's annoying how different running up mountains is to running up cross country hills. Like, they don't seem to transfer at all. They're almost completely different beasts. Like, running up with is like an hour of running uphill is completely different to 30 seconds on grass, when, like Eddie said, your heart rate is already right up. Yeah. And this is not a chance to shift energy systems. This is the same energy system. So there's two bits of experience that I got that really helped me. One was going to Kenya, obviously best cross country runners in the world, and they do a session called Kenyan Hills. It's very witty. Have you heard of that session?
Eddie's talked about it a few times, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of what Eddie was saying, but I guess the only difference is the hill might be longer, not as intense, but then the downhill is like no change. You want to keep the intensity right up there. So, I mean, obviously the Kenyans don't bother with heart rate. They do it off feel. But if you were on heart rate, you'd have like almost a minimum. You don't want to drop below it when you come down the hill. You're not giving yourself a chance to recover. That session is golden for cross country. It helped me so much to convert the strength and the power that you get from the hill strides into an actual race, because it's just so specific. Yeah. And that is really what cross country is. And if you can get it on grass, even better. That really helps make it really specific. And the other thing was, I've got a friend, John Gilbert, came third in the English National Cross Country Champs. And I used to kick his ass all over the track and all over the roads. I was way better than him in all the training sessions until I went out with him on a Sunday morning for a Sunday long run and realized what he was doing differently. And he runs his Sunday long runs 20 miles, 6-minute miling, which is fine, except he throws in a hill and he sprints up the hill. And then he carries on with 6-minute miling. So it's just like no rest, no chance for his heart rate to recover and come back down. And that was the only thing that he was doing differently to me, but it made him third in the country at cross country, and it made me like out of the top 50. That little tweak, just if you get out on the long run, every time you see a hill, you sprint up it and then you don't give yourself any recovery. You carry on. That is really, really good specific work for cross country, so that you know you can go up it quick and then you can get off it quick as well. So you don't have the chance to slow down and recover and let everyone get back past you. That's what I've got.
Those two sessions, if you're thinking, Kenyan hills are a great way of, especially if you don't have you're not in a hilly place, 30 to 45 seconds uphill, whatever gradient you've got, to start with like 4 minutes and go up and down. And the only aim is you do something like 3 by 4 minutes, and you try and do the same number of reps for each set of those 4 minutes, walking rest or standing rest at the bottom. And then as you get stronger, it doesn't feel that long of a session. If you will be sore the next day, and you can add on, and you could come 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 3 by 10 minutes. And the same with that, the long run with the efforts, Gaza. You could just incorporate that into a tempo run as well, a hilly 20, 30 minutes, replicating the cross country of holding that heart rate up and down the hills. Mentally, it's just as important to train that, isn't it? That fear. Yeah. Do you remember when I used to do the Zwift racing and just holding when you can see that heart rate, you're like,
yeah.
And everything in your brain is telling you to slow down, and you've got to override that. And that's when those sessions are really good as well.
Oh, I love that. Thanks, guys.
Let's see it, Gary. Is the cross-country season finished now, though, has it?
It's all over, yeah.
Next year. But you've got time. You've got time for next year.
Yeah, 100%. But it's... I always find, because I'm such a greedy runner, that, yes, I'd like to do well in cross-country, but then I also want to do Dragon's Back Race, and I want to do well at the Lakeland 100 and all county tops. spinning too many plates, I think.
I don't think you can do it all. Like that's, I was chatting to a client about this recently, and and you've got to, like, the reality is you've got to decide what's important to you, and what do you want to do well on, like what is your A game at the end of the day.
Cross country, fundamentally, I'd choose them as a training one. Well, no, I remember you said it when we spoke to you before. You weren't that invested in the cross country, but when you were in the race, you weren't so happy that it wasn't going so well.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with it until the gun goes.
Yeah, it's hard, like being able to be measured and hold back, and but because we love running, don't we? And when you're racing, that's it. You're locked in, aren't you? And that person next to you, like, can have you.
Yeah.
God, I really never want to race next to Trish. Gary, do not go near any ridges. Check your food. You might get a food test. Dragon's back. She is vicious.
They're going to be in the same tent.
She's scared. She's like, gotta stay ahead. She's coming.
He'd be feeding me that soup like James Noble was talking about.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thanks, guys. Definitely going to do the 30 seconds. I'm going to do that. Even in my little group of runners that I train with every week, I'm pretty sure everybody will be all up for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, that helps. That helps a lot.
Gary, what have you got on before Dragon's Back? You've got Lakeland. Have you got anything else before that?
Yeah, wowzers. So, Lakeland 100 is I think about 4 weeks before Dragon's Back race. And then there's things like All County Tops. I'm doing a trail marathon, part of a relay team, Teenager with Altitude. So a good mix of distances and elevation. But ideally, Lakeland 100, it's cocking up Dragon's Back being the best week it possibly could. But it is what it is. I'm going to enjoy it all. Oh, thanks, guys. Appreciated that. I did abuse my position slightly.
Cheeky, but then you do that. If you haven't asked me for coaching stuff for a while,
I should have asked that question months ago before the cross-country season started.
Now you need to ask, how does a cross-country runner climb over crib crop without crying?
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? I'm such a greedy runner, chasing about 5 chickens at once. And I think I have to admit, maybe I can only do one well. But I really appreciate the comments and definitely bringing some of that into my training. I love the idea of these Kenyan hills. But I've Googled that and there's quite a few little variations on it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Kenyan. You can call any hill session Kenyan hills and adapt it. Start gentle, though. Always start with less is more for hills, and Kenyan hills especially because of the downward action on the old quadriceps as well. You can think, that didn't feel too bad. It's intense. And then when you finish, you can feel that doesn't feel too bad. And the next day you can be quite sore. This week, this guy needs no introductions. Do you know what? I decided we're not going to introduce him, but instead we're going to use this little bit of introduction time as a platform to tell you that if you are listening and you enjoy this chat, perhaps you might head over to the Green Runners and sign up for their membership. It's only £2.50 a year. With that £2.50, you can run races as a Green Runner. You can get a Green Runners patch and sew it onto your kit. You can participate in members-only live events. You can access a wealth of resources on sustainability around the sport as general. You receive updates from the Green Runners. You can join the Green Runners Strava Club, and you can feel great knowing you're doing something about the environmental nightmare we are living in by pledging to be a Green Runner. So head over there, have a look at the webpage. It's a lovely webpage, and sign yourself up. And also, here's our interview with Damian. Hi, Damian. Finally, we've caved. We've allowed you on the podcast. You've been banging on my gram stories for days. Let me on. I will let you on fresh from Barkley and not so fresh from the Winter Spine. Last time I saw you, we shared a mutual, I sort of threw myself at you at the start of the Spine, where you knew what was coming. I didn't know what was coming. And we were about to embark on both the best and the worst 2 days of our lives. One of our patrons, Rita Hall, is concerned, as I am, about how you are. How are you feeling after not only the massive challenge of the spine, but then also recovering and doing the Barkley. How are you?
That was nice. Thanks. Yeah, that was I can remember that moment vividly, actually, because I've been looking out for you, thinking, where's Eddie? And yes, there was a lot of emotion in that room, wasn't there?
There was a lot of feeling in that hug. Did you feel it too, that there was a lot we shared?
No. Yes, Eddie, yes, I did. And I can't now remember whether it was the conversation with you or several people, or just, but in those few minutes, there was a discussion of, is it worse if you know what's coming, or worse if you don't know what's coming?
Yeah, I think because I'd been with Debs for the last 24 hours, and she was like, why aren't you crying? How are you eating? You seem really relaxed. And I was like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's just like, it's like my dream, just out on the trails. And she kept going, huh?
Yeah, what an adventure. I loved hearing it on listening to your story on the podcast. And yeah, I suppose I had the reverse situation at the Barkley recently, where quite a lot of people there knew what they were in for, and I was a virgin. Nice to be a virgin again, and I was in a similar situation, I suppose, of the unknown.
The puppy at the gate, waiting and being like, "Let's get this done."
Yes, all that enthusiastic naivety.
I just can't get over this. Is that I'm only just into my second week back, what I would call full training. And it's taken me so long to recover, not only mentally, but physically from the spine. And yet I watched you with amazement start running again after the spine, and then being able to recover and train again for the Barkley. And I was a little bit angry, no offense, because I was so jealous that you were able to do that. But I wondered if you were able to do that, because when you've done something like the spine quite a few times, you've done those long events, do you think the body gets acclimatized as such and you recover quicker?
I do. I think it's a few things, but remember, what day did you finish shop?
Yeah,
this isn't
I know. You were like 400 hours.
I guess I was done by the Wednesday afternoon, so that was still Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, so it's 3.5 days.
Yeah, it was 5. So it was another day and a half. Let's not.
That's another what, 2 nights? Yeah, another 2 nights without good sleep, I suppose. Yeah, that is my third finished spine, and yeah, I do have a coach, the excellent David Roach, and I do listen, kids. Always listen to what your coach tells you. Never do anything differently. And I do. Yeah, I trust him a lot, and he was quite. I definitely didn't run for at least a week. And it's all about, getting the cake back in, sleeping as much as you can. And of course, as you probably found out, that sleep isn't as straightforward as you'd think. Often it's, accompanied by some sexy night sweats, or just waking up a lot and being in discomfort. So at least a week before running. I can't remember exactly how many days. And then we had 2 very conservative weeks as well, where I didn't run every day. And it was just probably 5 or 6 easy miles if I did, even 3 or 4 miles if I remember. Yeah, we judged it on both feel, I suppose, but also, watches are quite clever now. I don't, technology is always a guide, not a rule, but looking at resting heart rate, looking at HRV.
And did that come down quite quickly? Because my heart rate stayed up 10 beats higher for about 6 weeks.
Wow. Well, listen, if I'm honest, after Tour de Géant in September, it was high for a long time. Yeah, months. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This, for some reason, after the spine, it seemed to come back very quickly. I don't know if that is partly down to lack of the reduced alcohol intake post-race. I found over the last couple of years where results have been a bit more mixed and unsatisfactory. I don't drink much during the year, but then after a race that hasn't gone so well, there is more red wine that goes in, and you've got to rehydrate, right? And I think after the spine, I was fairly satisfied and happy. And so I wonder if simply being satisfied and happy, but also, I probably had 2 pints, I think. One of them was straight after the race, and then I was sent to bed by Nikki Ligo. She was like, right, upstairs for you. I don't know if both those things are factors. And then, recovery was surprisingly quick from the spine, but it isn't always that way. Please don't hate me too much. I must admit, after, Tour de Géant, it was a couple of months. And I was starting to get a bit like, have I got a permanent fatigue thing?
That's what, like a couple of weeks ago, I was like, oh my God, I've done myself some big dollar damage. But I think kind of like the 2 months ticked over, and then the body was like, okay.
Do you feel recovered now? And that's a fascinating discussion in itself. Like, what is being fully recovered? Do you feel recovered from the spine now?
Yeah, there's still a few little bits, tendons in my feet. I find I'm much more susceptible to the cold. I think my feet and my hands, I got quite bad frostnip on my fingers and my toes. And then it was like -5 this morning. And my feet, it's like almost like my feet go, oh, no. And they start hurting in the cold, which I've never had before. So I don't know.
That's interesting. I do think I've got like an almost permanent nerve damage on my big toe on one foot probably from the early spine. And my feet sometimes, in the cold, they sometimes almost feel transparent.
Yes. This is
okay. That is something. Okay,
that is exactly how. I don't think it helps that where I live is so. When I came back from the spine, it's so cold. It was like -20, for a couple of weeks, and I found I couldn't get warm. And of course, I know you're a dad, you've got kids, but I'm the mum. And so when the mum, as you know, when the mum comes home, she then has to take back on the mental load, the parenting. I do the bulk of the parenting, the kids. So I had felt quite guilty about how much time I'd taken away over Christmas for the spine training. And so I took on, I was going full tilt, being the good mum for quite a few weeks, which is hard work as well. But live and learn. And you definitely inspired my spine recovery and my spine journey, because initially I was the sort of first week post spine. I was really sad in my performance, and I felt that my performance didn't reflect the training that I'd done and my athletic ability. And I felt slightly, I felt I'd let myself down a little bit. And then I thought, well, hang on a second, look back on, not very rarely these massive events go really well for people for the first time. And as long as I take really good learnings, and now I look back on it now, I'm like, no, I did. When I think of everything that went wrong, I'm like, no, that's actually, I handled it, how well I handled everything. But looking back on your journey as an ultra runner as well, often the performances perhaps that we're not as pleased with, there's so much learning from. And as you said, this spine, I think, was a bit of a culmination of those learnings. And you haven't just arrived there. It's taken you years of roller coaster.
Yeah, no, that's really true. And I'm beginning to think, I think I'm quite a slow learner. So that was my fourth spine. That was my best spine was my fourth spine. And you're also at UTMB. My best UTMB is my fourth one. Let's hope it doesn't take so long at Barkley marathons. Yeah, I don't think I'm a fast learner particularly, if I'm honest. I mean, if we were fast learners, we'd probably stop doing this stuff quite early on, actually. When it gets above 100 miles, it feels like the first time is a recce. I think Ian Keith says similar, like things like definitely the Barkley, Tour de Gionne, the spine, things that just go past the second night, especially. The second night seems to be the crux time when, the sleep monsters start coming out and things start to get confusing.
And it's how you deal with that confusion, isn't it? Like, you've never felt it before. You can't get it in training. You don't know how you're going to react to it. And it's quite frightening the first time that you feel like that, and you realize that you're the only one that can save yourself. And you can't even save yourself because you've just got to keep going. It's like...
I think it's so tricky to learn too, because you said the fourth time was your best time. But you might be dealt a completely different set of cards each time you do it. So things that you might have learned, you just can't put into practice on another race.
Yes, it's hard. And I'm trying to think now, like at the Barkley, I still didn't manage sleep deprivation as well as I would have liked, or as well as I can on paper, I suppose. And I've still got, I coach other athletes and I try and tell them what to do after a second night. And I've got a little checklist of 4 or 5 things. But it still didn't really work at Barkley, partly because the time limit, so I didn't have the time to sleep. But then at the same time, that's what fascinates me about this sport, is all those different elements. Yeah. That game of chess thing where, you're fueling great, you're pacing great, but you're falling asleep on your feet. What are you going to do about it?
I'm so happy that my next race is just 100-miler. It's just 100-miler. I'm so happy. When I was out running in the freaking cold this weekend, I was like, I don't need to worry about kit, gloves. It's simples. Did you always know you were going to do the Barkley so close after the spine? Was that on your radar?
Not exactly. I have to be careful what I reveal, but when you apply, you don't know what the date will be. And it wasn't as early this year as the previous year, but it was still earlier than traditionally it used to be. And the spine was a week, you could say a week later than it might normally be. So I forget how many weeks in between. Maybe it was 7 or 8, I think. But that's not ideal. But definitely now it's time to chill. And yeah, I've listened to people like, Francois Daines talked about this when he does I suppose they're only hundreds, but the Hard Rock UTMB double. I think there's 6 weeks between them maybe. And yeah, a lot of people don't do well doing that, but he does okay. But he says he won't do that every year. And then if you look at his schedule, he's not really racing much before or afterwards. So he's pretty sensible there. So yeah, it's not something I would necessarily encourage. I mean, it could be that if you recover well, that stimulus from the first one may benefit the second one. That might be wishful thinking. It's difficult to.
Well, I think you threw a good dice as well because the spine went so well. You weren't out for numerous nights. It was a relatively compact and well. You didn't have a ton of sickness. The energy was there. Though the weather was cold, you didn't get really sort of like wet to your bones. There were lots of things that would have helped recovery as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Neil Robertson and quite a few people, as you know, I guess you get this question a lot on social media about you have a very high presence on the green runners. You are an advocate for climate change. You are an absolute role model to all of us. However, you did take a long flight to get to Barkley, which we know was well thought out as well. But if people are taking, so I'm going to twist this question slightly, if people are taking flights for races, how did your thought process go into why you wanted to fly for that race? And is there a place that we can go and sort of calculate what sort of carbon offset, how can we donate some money if we do need to take long flights? That's sort of two questions in one.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that and so carefully, so delicately, because I'm
like a sort of BBC breakfast presenter, I like to think.
Am I the naughty politician? Am I Boris Johnson?
Slightly, but it's okay. Because
careful and sensitive. I don't think anyone's said that about it yet.
Yeah, no, I both like and dislike talking about this, but I think it's really important.
So important.
I think, yeah. So I mean, over time, over the last 2 or 3 years, I've really, I suppose, looked at my own footprint and where can I improve. And I've worked with companies. There's a company called Our Carbon who I sort of they're a consultancy and I work. They're actually started by a friend of Jim Mann's. That's how I got involved.
Their webpage, Our Carbon.
Yeah, it should be ourcarbon.com, I think, and if not, I'll send it on afterwards. So they no longer consult with individuals, but they will do companies. And yeah, they from 2019 they've sort of analysed my family's footprint to see where are the big outgoings in terms of emissions. And yeah, early on it was the flights in 2019. I did a load of flights and I used to average probably 3 flights a year, 3 return flights a year for running. And when I could see the huge impact that had for our overall footprint, I was, aghast really, and we're like, oh right, okay. Now luckily lockdown came along and it was easy not to fly for 1 year. But yeah, I stretched that out to 3 years. I managed not to fly for 3 years. And what I did in that time, I suppose, is I made a list of, okay, which races do I really want to do still? I'm very lucky. I've done most of the big ones. I have done Marathon des Sables. I have done things like that. I don't want to, wave my finger around and point at other people and say you shouldn't do Marathon des Sables or something like that. I decided not to do races like Diagonal de Fou, for example. I'm just debating now whether I will still apply for Western States. I apply every year. Maybe I don't. Maybe that's not important to me enough. But on that list, right at the top was the Barkley Marathons, and I thought, well, yeah, if I ever got into that, I did look into going there on various sort of cargo ships and stuff. But it's the sort of thing I'd do if I didn't have kids.
Yeah.
Long trip. Let's just say it's a long trip. If I didn't have kids, maybe I would. But yeah, I quite like the idea that they might just remember who I am. So yeah, it's a tough decision. But I thought, well, I've done what I can. I've sort of in this process, I've turned vegan, for example, or turned annoying vegan, as I prefer, and yeah, reduced wherever I can in my personal footprint. And there's a separate debate about how important is an individual footprint compared to nudging for system change. And I suppose in that respect, I get involved with Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil, and I've wasted a load of time writing a stupid book about it all, and co-founding the Green Runners. Although again, it was a load of other amazing people who did nearly all the work there. So to me, that's more important than the first personal footprint stuff. But I totally understand how people sort of, are interested in your personal footprint. I think I've done all I can. I don't think I should have to sort of give up all my running dreams.
No.
I think I can still have 2 or 3, and I've cut off, some and said, actually, I'm not going to do that. I have to be careful how I say this, I suppose. But to me, 1 flight a year, whether it's for an athlete or not, it isn't terrible. The percentage percentages are that I think it's 1% of people do. I think it's 50% of the flights. I might double check that and send you a link afterwards because I do forget some of these stats. But it's horrendous. There's a 1% of super emitters who are doing most of the damage, and then people like us who are, care about the future of the planet, a livable planet, and we get all this anxiety about whether to fly once in every 2 or 3 years, and that's not. Actually, no, it's just not fair. I don't think.
No.
So yeah, that's where I am. That's a bit waffly, but hopefully that. I didn't fly. I didn't sort of skip to the airport full of beans thinking, yippee, I can fly. Like it was quite. Yeah, I didn't enjoy doing it after 3 years without doing it. But I guess it was a life dream sort of thing to do the Barkley.
I think you've made a lot more than you probably realise, think about their carbon footprint, which is probably one of the biggest things your platform can do. And you carried on doing that, even if people were thinking, well, he goes on about this and he's gone and flown over to America. Good. Think about that. That's a really good. Yeah. Get angry about it. Do something. You know what I mean? Like no thought about it is, yeah, okay, well, then you're angry about it. Make a decision. You make the change as well. And we feel the same with the platform that we have with the podcast. We're not perfect, but we do our bit. And we hope that by, rattling on about this, that other people can just a bit of self-reflect, but don't let it, like you say, if there is something, just have some thought into your race program or taking this flight, and even just a little bit of planning about, do I really need to take that flight?
Two things I'd love to add there actually is you mentioned the word perfection, which I think is really important. I can't remember if I borrowed it from somewhere, or I don't think I came up with it myself, but the idea of progress, not perfection, because we just can't be perfect. So our food, the food we have in the morning, there were emissions released in the creation of that. Our clothes, almost everything we do or touch or do anything with, there were emissions released, usually in the creation of them.
God, boiling the kettle for that tea bag. I mean, that is done so many times.
I'm not giving that up. I don't care about the rest of the planet. I need my tea. Sorry, kids.
Sorry,
You're
kids.
going to live in a desert. You're going to live in a desert. I need my tea.
Oh, yeah, but if we live in the desert, the kettle's going to be tricky to boil. So let's just be...
Should take less time. You could do it with a solar... Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I think progress, not perfection is really important. And there's a fear. I definitely see it in brands, in events, when I research the book, in other athletes. There's a fear of not being perfect. So they do... Well, either do nothing, or maybe some people do things, but they don't want to talk about it because they're not perfect. And I understand that. But that does hold us back, and it looks like apathy. And yeah, so I'm happy to be a bit of an idiot, be called a hypocrite, and I sort of embrace that word. We're inevitably hypocrites. Hopefully just showing a middle way where you can care and you can still do some things. And now when it comes to selecting races, there's an important checklist. Well, again, I can't remember if I came up with it. I probably nicked it from someone. Maybe you. It's like, how important, I think number one, how important is that event? And this could be not just running, but how important is it anyway? So that's what I did. Yeah, some of those races, actually, they're not that important to me. Actually, Barkley's really important to me. Number two, what's the best way? What's the lowest carbon way you could practically travel there in practical terms? Obviously, I could have sailed to America. Greta Thunberg did it. She doesn't have kids. She's got a bit more time, it seems. But often, like European races, often we can get a train, which I've been doing for a couple of years, and lots of us do actually. And that's, again, I know lots of athletes who do this and don't post about it on social media, and that's totally fine. But if they did, it would sort of all help it be just a bit more normal. So yeah, a train is often a third or a quarter of the footprint of a flight. But yeah, more expensive, so it's not open to everyone. But yeah, could you travel there better, I suppose? And then the third one is whether you could or couldn't, how can you make more out of the trip? And that comes from sort of Mike Berners-Lee and other sustainability experts. He's a professor at Lancaster University, author of How Bad Are Bananas, which is a great place to start for anyone. But yeah, can you make more of the trip? I couldn't fit in a work thing, but I stayed for 2 weeks, so I tried to make the absolute most of the trip. So that's the third thing. And then I suppose number four is offsetting, that is a big debate and is generally looked down on a bit by people in high up in sustainability. But what I'll do, I do offset all my travel, but it's definitely got to be a last resort, not a sort of I'm going to fly 5 times this year and offset it all, so it's okay, because those emissions still happened.
I think David said to actually donate a small amount of money if you've got some to spare to. They've got a list of charities on Green Runners to support education and environmental sort of more discovery of the work they're doing, the scientific work. And so if you perhaps want to sort of, instead of offsetting your carbon footprint, perhaps putting the money into work behind the scenes as well might be a way.
Okay, yeah, that it could be your own thing entirely. You could decide to donate to a protest organisation or a lobby, something local, a wildlife. It doesn't have to be the offsetting, but I will try and find you a good link, because it is a bit of a wild west with the offsetting. But some companies, are doing good things.
It's good you said about the progress, not perfection. I think some people might look at green runners and maybe they think there's some kind of militant group. I'm not too sure if they do or not, but they're not. They're not that group. I still eat a small amount of meat.
What?
Definitely. I know, horrendous. Yeah. I definitely do not fit exactly in the green runners box, but it is a progress, not perfection. And like you said about anxiety, my goodness me, I just think, not even talking about running, I feel massive personal anxiety at home, just recycling. Do I put the right bit in the right recycling box? But then you have massive companies who are these mass polluters, but yet then there's people at home stressing if the kind of local council is going to call them out when they put the wrong bit of plastic in the wrong box. It's a crazy situation.
Yeah, that's exactly, I think, how a lot of us feel, and it's not kind of fair. Like, we're people wanting to do the right thing. And then there's a massive company down the road drilling for more oil when scientists say we absolutely mustn't. So to me, if you've got 5 minutes in a week, I would honestly email your MP, or if you can donate a bit to Extinction Rebellion or Just Stop Oil, or I would think of those system things, nudging the system, or obviously voting certain ways. I think those are more important than personal footprint things. Often they do go hand in hand, but I would almost encourage people not to obsess over their own footprint too much, and try and nudge the system more.
Should we talk about Barkley?
Yeah, Gary's itching. Gary is itching.
Jacob Brotherall, one of our Patreon members, as much as you can share, actually, Damian, I know it is very secretive, but the application process, is there anything you could divulge on this subject? Asking for a friend. And how far, we talked about earlier on the podcast, the Silver Northern Traverse is open for entries now, and this year's event hasn't even happened. So basically as much as you can share about the whole application process.
Probably the answer to that is no, I can't.
I love that.
Next question, Pete Walker asks.
So what's fascinating about the Barkley is there are very few sort of written down rules or things you're told you definitely can't sort of do or say. There's a whole massive grey area, and you sort of learn gradually, I suppose, from the other veterans about, so like, what am I allowed? When you're in, you're like, what am I allowed to say? Can I tell friends? I don't know. There are about 3 probably key areas that Laz definitely doesn't want the information shared. The actual route, so you can you can go to the park, and you can even download a map from the park online, actually. But the actual route of the race, he definitely doesn't want that shared. He definitely doesn't want the date of the race. Obviously, it'd be late now. It's happened. I don't know what the date is next year. He definitely doesn't want that shared. And the application process, he definitely, I understand they definitely don't like the idea that people know what time of year the application process is. And in terms of what is the application process, I'm not sure I'm allowed to share that.
This is one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to.
But you mentioned the route. I did see when the whole event was going on, somebody shared a route, what I thought was potentially the route, but maybe that wasn't. It was just picked from the actual national park.
Yeah, I don't know. You could. The map of the park is freely available, but most 2/3 of the route is off trail.
Yeah.
So the map of the park has the trails on, and some of those are included. And this comes to the recce, actually, like recceing the route. You're not allowed off trail in any recce's, so you can only recce 1/3 of the route, which is the trails. And obviously they're the easier for nav because you're on you're on the trail. The route does change each year, but not by a great deal, I don't believe. But he's very precious about that.
So it's a massive handicap, isn't it? First-time competitors not being able to do a recce, that is a big handicap.
Yes. Yeah, and that was, well, I don't want to say frustrating. Those were the rules, but I've done a recce now, so
a thorough one.
Yeah, 4 times just to be sure. I was really lucky. John Kelly, the T Dodger, was very generous with his time beforehand, and he took me to the park, I think 3 times, but we stayed on the trails. So I didn't know. Yeah, even after that, I didn't know the route as such, and I didn't know book locations. And the idea is you learn that the afternoon before, basically when you register and you see the master map. And so if you're a veteran, you have a huge advantage. And us virgins have to, well, it's generally seen the best way is to virgins stick to a veteran and learn all they can.
Oh, what a good life lesson.
That should be our motto.
Oh gosh, did I just say that?
We talk a bit about training. Actually, we go back. Pete Walker, he another patron. He asks, what specific training did you do for Barkley? And with hindsight, what would you have done differently in training?
So really, I probably only had sort of 2 biggish weeks before the Barkley, and the focus was vert, I suppose. So it's hiking. The Barkley's very steep. So it's steep.
How steep are we?
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
It's like
oh my goodness.
Well, yeah, it really gets to almost, obviously not quite like that, but at times you are hiking on this sort of thing.
Hands.
Yeah, you're grabbing trees. I guess sticks, cheat sticks. I can't imagine doing it without cheat sticks. And we were quite lucky. There had been a little bit of rain beforehand, but not loads. But I was told, when it's actually properly slippery and muddy, it's quite entertaining. Whereas it was fairly dry for us.
You must have looked at some of those steep downhills after a couple of laps going, your quads must have gone, no, Daddy, no, please.
It's quite an interesting, so it's nearly always covered in leaves. So it can be quite fun.
Yeah.
You don't always know what's under the leaves. Sometimes there are rocks, not too often, I'd say. But sometimes those downhills were great fun. And slippy, slidey, tumbly. And sometimes, I suppose, a bit less fun. But it was interesting. I didn't feel... You don't run them, really. You do tumble down them. It's not like UTMB. Like UTMB, say, I definitely had sore quads afterwards, I think, because you're sort of running the downhills, trying to run them well. And this one is, it's sort of a hiking thing, really. But I had 2 weeks of that, and I guess I tried to improve my navigation. I probably didn't do enough on that. But I did a local orienteering race in the dark and went out with a friend who's a bit of a nav whiz in some dark woods, and tried to work on that side of things as well. So that was my focus, vert and navigation in that short time.
In my little echo chamber, everybody knows the format for the Barkley, but if there's one person out there who doesn't know what we are talking about, it sounds like a bit...
We could have done this at the start.
It's not quite a pagan ritual, but it sounds like a bit of a ritual, the lighting of the cigarette, the conch. Give people a bit of a flavour of what it's like.
Yeah, those moments felt very surreal, and the conch is, it wasn't blown. So, when you get there, it's the race will start in a 12-hour window from midnight to 12 lunchtime, and it could be anywhere through the night. So, I just tried to, I slept all right, really. It was very cold, actually. I slept all right. Everyone has different theories about what time it's going to be, and it doesn't seem to me, hugely useful to try and guess it or to try and, just whatever will be, really. So I tried to sleep as best I could. And then he didn't blow it till I think 8:54. I think I'd already had breakfast, was, certainly a few teas in, but you're kind of ready, really. There's not loads to do. Oh, you have to go and get your new watch. So he gives you a watch. You're not allowed to take any electronical items. He gives you a new watch that basically has a countdown to the start, and then it all gives you a timing of how long you've been going, 24 hours, then back to 0, 24 hours, then back to 0, and then you've got another 12 hours. And after a while, you're just on Barkley time. You're not trying to guess anymore what time of day it is. You just know it's, dark or light, and you've got 12 hours left. So he gives you that, and then, you gather by the gate, and it was very surreal. He said, I can't remember what he said, but, something funny about how we're all going to die, and then, lit a cigarette, and you're like, wow. And you honestly felt like you're in a film.
You're like, that's really bad for you, by the way. I know it's part of the race, but you really shouldn't smoke.
It was a special occasion. And the format is, a loop, allegedly 20 miles. Most people think 26, and most people think it's about 13 or at least over 12,000 foot of vert, which is a lot. And it's steeply up and down woods, pretty much nonstop. And you're trying to collect. You have to collect. To prove you've been on the route, you 13 on this year anyway. There were 13 books, and you have to rip out the page that corresponds with your race number. Those books, they're not sort of hidden away on purpose, but they're not super obvious either, and they're nearly always under some rocks by a tree. And of course, you're in a wood, so
By a tree and lots of rocks.
Yeah, lots of rocks and trees.
yeah.
Were they good books? Did you have a quick flick through?
Let's see.
Oh.
Let's see. I haven't. I don't know if I've properly digested. Oh, that doesn't help. This isn't great podcasting, is it? Last Will and Testament.
Okay.
Of who?
Yeah.
A series of unfortunate events.
Oh, good. Like that one.
Is that the Liggity? What's it called?
Liggity Snick. Maybe.
That's the one.
Rising Darkness.
Yeah. I see. There's a theme.
Do you get to take the watch home too?
Yes.
Oh,
Damian's collecting all his little.
oh, you
I don't know if you're doing this or not, but this is probably I haven't really. I think I don't know what it's doing. I don't know what it's doing. Yes. Are there any more good ones? This probably isn't great podcasting, is it? On all my pages.
if you wore the watch out, somebody would think, "What is that watch?" No one would know the history behind that watch. It'd be awesome.
Bridge over troubled waters. So they're all things like that. And one of them was marathon training, I'm pretty sure, which was quite
At least it wasn't your book, Damian.
Yeah.
10 million steps, and abandon hope. And then one of them was bush first aid as well, I think. And hopefully you will know the story. Gary Robbins one year, to keep it simple, he was 6 seconds over the time limit, although it's not quite that simple. But the next year, when Gary Robbins did it, there was a book called 6 Seconds that he got a page from. Yes. So that's Laz's sense of humour for you there.
And how did your race pan out? From, we kind of watched Twitter really, but it sounds like you ran in a group for the most of it. There's a missing book story attached to that. I think Jasmine Paris found you asleep on the trail. Sounds very eventful. Yeah, if you could shed some light on that.
Well, so I had this, from reading lots of blogs, and there is a lot on the internet. There are about 3 sort of helpful films, but actually the blogs are a lot more useful. And it seemed like, people who did better early on in their Barkley story stuck with a veteran, for several laps and learnt the ropes, learnt the locations, learnt the right routes to run down. And so my aim was to, stick with a veteran. Now, John Kelly had been really helpful to me leading up to the race. So part of me didn't want to stick with him necessarily and sort of abuse his good nature, but then he's sort of used to me following him and copying him probably. So it just so happened he was kind of at the front. By book 2 or 3, there weren't that many people left at the front, and we were sort of 4 or 5 of us. It felt reasonably comfortable to me. So I was equally thinking, well, if Jerry Campbell's around or someone like that, or maybe Jasmine, maybe I'd team up with Jasmine. But I felt comfortable at John's pace for that time. So it was us 2, and then a Spanish guy called Albert, who is apparently the world road gaining champion and has won Ronda del Sims, so decent, and a Swiss guy called Christoph. I'm going to forget his surname, but apparently he's got some world record for the most amount of vert in 24 hours.
Yeah, 24-hour vert climbing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that at the time. So I was in quite elated company. And then, some bimbling tea drinker, piggybacking on their nav, basically. So I guess the pace was comfortable for me. So I was just trying to learn all I could, I suppose, learn the locations, learn, the different spurs and slopes you're going by, the tree you have to remember to turn right by and stuff. So some of it's straightforward. And some of it's
famous 5, isn't it? You like, if I pull that branch, then I turn left.
Yeah, the trapdoor opens. Yes, it is a bit like that. Well, so the first loop, went really well. And by the end of it, I think all 4 of us came in together. Yeah, we did. And aiming for a quick turnaround, quick transition of sort of 5 to 10 minutes and get back out. And then it would be counterclockwise and nighttime. So instantly, all that you've learned, not out the window, but it all looks very different suddenly. I mean, like I say, it's nearly all in the woods, steep. There are quite a lot of rivers around and rocks, and at least the rivers are quite good for navigation. But we did it in counterclockwise in the dark, and that I honestly can't remember much from that, other than it did get very cold, and there were 2 water drops, and some of these big bottles were frozen. But I think that all went well. I can't remember. I think it was just me and John by the end of that one, and then we went back out for counterclockwise again in the daylight. And again, maybe I'm just getting more and more stupid, but I can't remember much about it. I think it was fairly smooth.
Are you chatting with John? Are you sort of shooting the
I mean, he's quite bored of me by this stage. So
We know a lot about each other. I mean, you're going.
Yeah.
Or is it just a lot of grunting? I know John's pretty quiet, isn't he? When he's
Well, you say that, but yeah, there was some sexual grunting towards the end. He can get quite loud with his grunting.
I've heard about this grunting.
Yeah. But to be fair, when he does that, he climbs away from me up the hill. So, like he pointed out to me, maybe I should try it. So look out, world. So did we chat? Not much, to be honest. I mean, it was more about the route, I suppose.
Are you having to stay on the bearing pretty? Once you get the bearing, you having to look.
Well, this is the thing. Yes, I was trying to. I had some bearings written down that I'd sort of worked out on the route beforehand, on the map beforehand, the night before, and I was trying to sort of test them and think, is this one right? But John doesn't, he got the compass out once. He knows it so well. He doesn't necessarily know bearings. He just knows specific spurs or trees so he knows it very well. It doesn't mean he didn't make small mistakes, because when you get tired and it's dark and stuff, but he could correct them very quickly. So yeah, I was trying to learn all I could. I must admit, as it went on, I think Albert was back with us again. Those two were climbing so well that I was sort of hanging on. So I was out of earshot quite a lot, and I was kind of like, they would discuss something. I was like, oh, what was that? And I didn't.
I agree. Yeah, good point.
Definitely that way. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I was just about to say that. I was I was trying not to be too annoying. But yeah, me and John have spent a lot of time together now, so I probably was quite annoying. And I've realised John doesn't cuss much. I did call one of the climbs, a rude short word.
I feel very mindful if I'm around someone who doesn't swear much, and I swear, it really amplifies the swear.
I feel like, you're quite rude, aren't you? I feel like I was being, and it's kind of his garden as well, so I was, criticising his garden, really. Sorry, John. Yeah, so I think, but then the fourth loop is when it gets tougher, I suppose, because we're back in the dark. And it's the second night, and we both, we did make a mistake reasonably early on. We were suddenly off trail. We were both talking about power naps. I think we both know, power naps can be really productive. But then, Laz gives you these watches, and we were trying to fiddle out how to set an alarm. Because, so here's the thing: you want to sleep for 10 or 15 minutes.
So it's not like when you can lie down in the woods and go 10 minutes. I'm going to give myself.
No. So I actually thought, well, it's so cold that we'll just wake up anyway. We'll be all right. But John was a bit more concerned. And there are stories of people going to sleep for 2 or 4 hours and then, the race is over. So, but he had this great idea. We went to sleep on a book, or at least I had my head on the book. So the next runner would have to wake us up. So I thought it was a really good idea, except the next runner came within a minute. So we got comfortable, lay down. Oh, hi. And that was Albert joining us again. Now, sometime, this is where it all gets a bit hazy, but sometime around that time, I think I was slowly slowing, finding it harder to keep up with them on the climbs. And it was the sort of, they would wait for me, but like it wasn't like, if you stop and do your shoelace, you've got to work hard for probably 5 minutes to catch them. And there was a long climb where, I just didn't seem to make up the time. They did wait for me, and I sort of said, give it the hero thing and sort of, look, guys, don't wait for me. It's not, it's not fair. I'm just, go on, leave me. And the next long climb, John did disappear ahead. Albo was still with me, but he was having some breathing problems. He had this like niggly cough most of the time, and then you bear in mind we're breathing cold air all the time, and then the water is super cold as well, so that might not have helped. But we tried to have a power nap again on a book, and almost exactly the same thing happened. Albert, the French guy who ended up finishing, Aurélien, caught us within a minute or two and sort of woke us up. But I actually
ça va? Qu'est-ce que tu fais?
That sort of stuff. Yeah. But I did feel a bit revived, because I think sometimes if you just shut your eyes for a bit, that can, almost a micro, it wasn't a nap, but I felt a bit better. So I carried on with Aurélien, and Albert I just thought was behind me, but he actually DNF'd quite soon after that because of his breathing. So this is deep into the fourth lap. I was with Aurélien for about an hour, I think, but I had been thinking I've got to try and learn to do this on my own. Like the fifth lap is going to be on my own. I've got to learn that. I helped him find one book, and then suddenly he was gone. I think I stopped. When you get tired and you end up doing your shoes up quite a lot, or thinking I'll just swap.
Yeah.
Unpacking your whole bag and then going.
Go for an extra toilet break.
It's not even.
I think I did one of those sort of things. Yeah, a sort of semi-necessary, semi-unnecessary. And then, well, he was suddenly gone, and I was kind of like, "Oh, this is exciting! I'm on my own now. I can do it on my own." Except I couldn't. So the next book, I followed a bearing, and it just all looked. I mean, it was dark. It all looked totally foreign, totally different.
How frustrating!
But then I went back up back up this climb. It's probably a 15-minute climb, and thought, well, there are 2 more runners coming soon. Either I can wait for them, or I can, take a bearing on another river that would join that river. And I did a bit of both. I waited a bit and then thought, I shouldn't wait too long, and then did this other bearing. And actually, I did find the book. So that was quite exciting. That was like, okay, I found I sorted it out. But actually, all of that had cost me maybe an hour. And actually, I thought I had lots of time, but actually, an hour is very, very precious. Yeah. So by the time I got back to camp, I'd used up the sort of buffer that I had to have another sleep in, to have a power nap at camp, which is always my plan, to have a power nap at camp.
Do you find that helps? Petras, one of our patrons, I've never done a multi-day event, but Petras, that multi-day event, GC mentions maybe a 90-minute sleep. And you mentioned it earlier about, just a little micro nap. Like, I've never experienced that, but from yourself, do you really feel rejuvenate, or as best you can actually in that situation?
So, well, it's really, it's delicate. This gets debated quite a lot. Whenever you listen to a sleep expert, they'll say 90 minutes is the magic sort of cycle. Okay. But bear in mind, sometimes you lie down and you don't go straight to sleep. I'm sure Eddie would have found this on the spine. And in fact, at the spine on Middleton, I was adamant I was going to sleep there. And I lay down, and then suddenly, my legs really hurt. They weren't hurting when I was running, but now they really hurt. Or someone chats in the corridor, and that's kind of what happened to me at Middleton, but both those things. So
that might be me, sorry.
It was you, Gary, going, Damian's in there.
But I've definitely had experiences of power naps really working, just 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then also, anecdotally, people like Nikki Spinks and Paul Tierney at Tour de Gion, they'll often sleep for an hour or 2 hours, which, doesn't fit the science. The science should be 90 minutes. But in practice, I know top runners who don't obey that 90-minute rule. So I'm a bit ambiguous about it. And at Barkley, there wasn't time for a 90-minute. No. So unless you've really... you really have to have created a good buffer. So for me, it was sub 30 minutes, I suppose, is what I would aim for. But I might do 2 or 3. I suppose they might be several 10-minute naps. And John did later on have naps. He's got this amazing story about, to try and make sure he woke up again, he went to sleep with his head in a puddle, because then he thought
that's not true. Nobody would do that. What?
I'd need the toilet.
Yeah, no, I believe he did.
If I was drowning, I'd wake up, was his sort of if I
think he did it upside down. So the top of his head would be in the puddle.
Oh my goodness.
I believe that's how I understood it. And so that's going to make you cold. So after about 5 minutes, you'll be like, whoa, wash your hair, off you go. So where was I? Yeah, so I tried 3 times now to have some sort of power nap, and that hadn't really worked, other than maybe that time.
The cortisol is so much higher than the spine as well, because you're on this time limit. Whereas with the spine, another 10 minutes here and there is not such a big deal.
What I found was, yes, the mental fatigue is higher. So physically, I wasn't as trashed as I would be on the spine, partly because you're not running very much. But the mental fatigue, because you're having to be focused for the navigation, and I suppose the pressure of the spine, like you say, you could lose yourself for half an hour. In most scenarios, that's not too bad. Here, that's huge. You're suddenly oh my God, I'm right against the time limit now.
I would be exhausted.
Yeah, it's mentally more exhausting, I think. I mean, that said, So when I got back to camp, finishing my 4th loop, and I'd done a few books on my own by then, so I was feeling good, and it was about 8 or 9 in the morning. It was sunny. A load of my friends were there. Spinksy was there. My amazing crew, Jodie, Tom Hollins was there. So it was Emma Stewart. It was lovely. Coming in, there were friends. And in my head, I had 12 hours left. This is where I suppose a bit of naivety is. I thought that was a decent amount of time. Now, Jodie, who's done the Barkley 5 times, afterwards told me, I gave you about 15% chance of finishing the 5th loop. And I was like, oh, thanks.
Harsh.
Yeah, but actually, you look at the most recent finishes, I've looked at the last 5 or 6, and they're all 13 hours plus on that final loop. So 12 hours wasn't enough. I based that on my first loop of 8 hours, and 12 hours is more than 8, I've since calculated. So I thought 12 was ample. So I left on that 5th loop going, you never know, this might actually, blimey.
I'm backing myself. Mr. Hall is backing himself for this 5th loop.
One of the best moments of the race for me, Jared Campbell was waiting just out of camp on the bridge to fist bump me on the way out, which is honestly one of those life moments of bloody hell. So I left that loop feeling optimistic, but probably that naivety, which has at times served me quite well. But I mean, you've got to give it a go anyway. I think even if I knew 13 was probably the minimum, I was going to give it a go. But then, yes, hilariously, the very first book eluded me, which was frustrating because it had been really easy coming the other direction. You've got these capstones, they call them, which is basically sort of tall rocks. and a whole series of them. It was obvious the first time, and this time it wasn't. And they've all got little grooves in them, book-sized grooves everywhere. So it was like this sort of Kafkaesque nightmare of I know it's here somewhere. Where is it? And yeah, I went back and forth. I think I searched for about an hour, went back and forth, and sort of ran back down the route the other way to try and approach it from the fresh direction. And then I thought, well, I need a reset. I need some calories, caffeine, and then I tried another power nap. Yeah, this was my third power nap attempt, I think. But honestly, by this stage, I was hearing voices a lot, a little bit of hallucinations, but it was more the voices. So I kept hearing other runners chatting, and I was like, oh, great, some other runners.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, no one here again. No. So I couldn't. And then after a while, I guess my mind changed from it's here and I can't find it to I'm at the right place and it's not here. So I started telling myself, I was right, and the book, and it does occasionally happen, as we know this year. Actually, it did happen.
So this is a different book. Sorry, I think a few people have asked me personally, is this the same book or not?
No, I sort of wish it. It would be a bit more. What's the word? Save my reputation a bit if it genuinely was missing. But no, it was a different book, right at the other end of the course, actually. So a kindly hiker, thought the race was over and removed one of the books that Aurelian was still going to look for before he finished. My book was there because about an hour afterwards, Jasmine Paris found it easily. Thank you, Jasmine.
I like that. Girl.
She's so much smarter.
This is so true to life. When the husband goes, "Where are the car keys? Where are the car keys?" Can you find they're right there? They're right there.
Yeah, much as I try and avoid gender stereotypes, that sort of thing happens in our house a lot, and I see it. I have a daughter, and we see it with them as well. Have you really
go upstairs, have a shower, brush your teeth, get changed, and the boys go, "What do you say?" And my little girl goes, "Oh my God, I've already done it. Come on."
Why are men stupid?
Oh, you're not stupid. It's just there's lots going on, or maybe not very much going on.
It's the two things at once.
I couldn't find the book, and realized by that time I had 10 hours left, and realized, well, that is, even if. Yeah, it never really occurred to me to carry on without the book because I thought either I can't find books now and I'm too messed up, or it's missing and who's going to believe me? So I'm not going to do 10 hours and then go, yeah, but you've got a page missing, hard luck. Which, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know now whether I should have carried on, but it wouldn't have. Yeah, I couldn't find the book. So I turned around and started jogging back to the camp thinking, well, 4 loops isn't too bad, but feeling a bit despondent. But then because the pressure was off and I stopped, it was easy to sleep. So it was lovely and warm. And I just lay across the path, head in all these leaves, lovely sunny day, went for a nice, finally drop off. And then someone bloody wakes me up, a few minutes later again. And that's Jasmine running down the mountain. And of course, the first thing I answered pretty much was, "Did you find the book?" And she's like, "Yeah." So yeah, I was both pleased for her. She found the book and a little bit crushed because I don't know if that's general stupidity or the sleep deprivation or nav or a bit of all three. But you live and learn, I suppose. And
have you reconciled your loop 5? Martin Webb, one of our patrons, he is furious with what the Barkley's gods threw at you. How are you feeling now with a little bit of time to reflect on it? He feels he dealt you a cruel hand.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you, Martin. I mean, I must say the weather was probably better than it had been for a long time. So there is that. And the book was there. Oh, Jasmine said it was. I mean, maybe she's telling the knife.
Oh, this is it.
Well, that is. I mean, one other thought I had. Well, yeah, in the past, there are wild hogs there, and sometimes they make offer books. Although I think so. In my head, you start telling yourself those. Also, I thought, did I misplace it last time? And also, Aurelian had been through. Is there a chance he's very tired? He just puts it somewhere else. Oh, yeah. So you do start. You start rationalising things that. Well, they're not impossible, but they're unlikely.
The hogs I like particularly.
It's happened once, apparently. But apparently if they do that, then it's scattered everywhere and you sort of see pages, So, yeah, it's the glass. Yeah, it's the glass 4/5 full or 1/5 empty. I still feel quite. So John Kelly kindly pointed out that so 17 people have finished the Barkley marathons. 19 people have started Loop 5, and I'm one of those. So there are 2 of us who have started a 5th loop but never finished a 5th loop. So that's me and Gary Robbins. So I suppose when I put it like that, I'm both, really flattered to be in that exclusive club with, a bit of a hero of mine, but at the same time, frustrated. But I think really, even if I found that book, I probably didn't have enough time to do the loop. So that's probably the truth of it.
And it's a story. I like the story and I almost like the fact that you've come away wanting more.
When you go back next time, yeah.
Is that a question? Is that a leading question?
We can't ask, can we?
Statement.
We've already learned our lesson. That
Am I reconciled? Probably. I'm not sure I am. I'm both satisfied and frustrated.
That's
fair enough.
I think
Yeah,
a lot of
that's
people
what makes.
probably feel like that after an ultra as well, that you always finish it's part of our makeup, isn't it? It's our personality as well. The reason we can do these horrible things is that we're always looking for not just the progress, but the perfection as well in everything.
That's a very good point. That could be it as well, actually, isn't it? That when the type of people who do this stuff aren't easily satisfied.
Can we talk a little bit about the highs and lows? Not maybe Barkley related, but perhaps drawing on your experience as well. Katie Falconbridge has said, you always seem to have different words or letters written on your arm. Is this just doodles, or have you got a mantra that keeps you going through the dark bits on mega adventures?
That's I like that question. Very observant. I've only done that 2 or 3 times on big FKTs, I think, where I have worked a bit with a sports psychologist. Partly to try and improve myself as an athlete, and to how can I be a better coach as well and pass some ideas on. And it does come back to that cliche of what's your why. Know your why beforehand, and then the next stage actually is to have it visually somewhere or written somewhere so that you remember your why during these long things. Usually it is my kids, and that I can if there's something that reminds me of them, I'll get all emotional and sit down and start crying, or hopefully push on.
I don't know are your kids aware of what you do, Damian? Are they bothered like mine? Not really.
Semi-interested, not impressed, certainly.
Definitely not.
And they do think, when my wife sometimes does a trail half marathon or something, they're not, they're very unimpressed with that because it's a bit unfair on her. But they're not that interested. I take it yours aren't. I think yours are a tiny bit younger.
I don't know. Maybe a bit. I have got a teenager, so maybe a little bit older. Yeah, I think that they're pretty uninterested. It's a bit of annoyance for them when I go away, and then I'm tired when I come back, so I'm less agile to actually get and cook for them. But I do see bits coming out in them, which I think, here we go. This is, the resilience and the training, and mum's going out, so we better go. They're really sporty, we better go.
I just think it's an inconvenience. I drag them to all these places and then I abandon them for 24 hours and come back wrecked. And I'm useless.
Ross Garwood's got another one about the highs and lows. When you have a bad spell and find yourself in the pain cave, are there things that you do to try and get back to normal jogging? And this is a really good one because I think people perhaps embarking on an ultra journey, sort of like 50 plus miles, is that sometimes if you get into a hiking and you think my legs are shot, it's not the end. Often in these big, you can have such highs and lows. What do you do, Damo, to sort of pull yourself back into jogging? Get jogging again.
Well, number one rule, low mood, eat food. Calories is absolutely critical, and we need lots of them. We simply can't get enough in. And 20%, at least 20% of those calories are used by your brain. So, of course, when you start to think negatively or demotivated thoughts, you nearly always need more calories. It doesn't solve everything. But actually, it has been proven to lessen muscle soreness.
It's not going to hinder, is it? Unless you need 3 points of contact, Gary. Like actually eating, such a joy.
I would say number one thing, low mood, eat food in life as well. So that's number one thing, and then it could be maybe you need a bit of liquid and then, sometimes it might be some caffeine if you're deep in. So that's my sort of checklist, those 3 things. And then the 4th thing probably is, could it be a power nap, depending on how long you've been going? And then it's, remembering your why and what have you scribbled on your forearm? Usually it's those things. And some of those, remembering like you signed up for it, you probably paid a lot of money for it as well, and then you're there being miserable, thinking, "Oh, I don't want to do it. I wish it was over." And you've been planning for this for 6 months. You paid 500 quid, and you're complaining and wanting it. So usually, low mood, eat food was the short answer.
Yeah, that's a very good tip. Moving on now for the rest of it. It feels like your year kind of might be done because that is massive. massive things. Susanna would like to know if you're returning to UTMB. She also wants to know what you think of the Stones, but I think if we go into that now, it'll be you're going to actually miss the kids' bedtime. But is UTMB something you still like to go back to?
It just doesn't really attract me at the moment. It might be that, I've done 5 starts, 4 finishes. I've almost definitely had my best ever run there back in 2018. It just doesn't feel that exciting and to me anymore. I think I've just done it enough times. I'm not saying I never would. Maybe when I'm in my 50s, it'll be exciting to do it as a V50 athlete and sort of how well can I do? That might be exciting. And I do have more mixed feelings about the race now. I don't like their World Series. I don't like how they're encouraging people to travel around the world and fly, although of course I've just done that. I don't think that's great. They haven't been brilliant on gender equality until recently, and the Stones thing.
Brilliant. I saw they put there's 21% of women, but then they said that's across all 8 of our races, and I'm like, but how many are actually in
the race?
Yeah. I'm like, how many are actually in UTMB? Because it was something terrible, like 8%. So
8%.
Don't put that statistic out. And that just enraged me even more because I was like, false stats.
Yeah, I was disappointed with their whole pregnancy deferral thing. I mean, how difficult is it?
Some of the feedback from that, I mean, it's just, I can't say it. It was told sworn secrecy, but it's disgusting, and I would never.
Right. So I've got very mixed feelings about the organisation. It's not like mixed feelings is probably the best way of explaining it. So, and I just, like almost emotionally, I don't feel a pull towards Chamonix like I used to. So, and I guess I am at an age, I'm 47, where the longer stuff, in truth, I'm going to be more competitive at the slightly longer stuff, but they just excite me. Like, so I'm going back to the Tour de Gion, where I had a brilliant adventure last year, and I just loved it. And it's just beautiful. It goes on a bit, but it's gorgeous, and just it's got this lovely atmosphere as well of just being a bit underdeveloped compared to UTMB. There's almost no kit checks, and some of the rules are a bit vague and things like that. It's quite refreshing in a way.
Italian, a bit more Italian than French.
Very much so, yes.
Less paperwork, more, if you like it, you go up there.
I always like the sound of Lizzie Hawker's race because of that. It just feels like I'm getting all the satisfaction from that place to be immersed in that scenery, but without all the razzmatazz. I think that sounds wonderful.
Well, I'm very lucky. And 2019, I did her. Well, it got cancelled halfway through, but I did the 100-miler UTMR. It was absolutely gorgeous. More rugged, more difficult terrain, more exciting terrain, more wildlife than UTMB, and you didn't have a headache from all the cowbells either. So I guess I've answered that one. Yeah, no immediate plans to return.
Last question. Neil Robinson, he says, you're a professional scribe. I love the way he's put scribe in there. That's a word we don't use enough. Is there going to be a Barkley book?
I hadn't really thought about that. I'm just looking around because I was sent a new Barkley book.
Have I written back? Wait, I've written loads.
Well, if you read my blog, that was about a book length.
I enjoyed your blog. I didn't want to read it because I don't like a lot of intel before the podcast. Otherwise, I'm like, I've heard this story loads of times. I like it's fresh, but I did read your blog because I wanted to know. I wanted to
deliberate under research. Would we call that?
I would call that yes. Research is a big word for the podcast. Interest, a lot of interest we have.
There is a new book, but there is a new Barkley. There's 2 Barkley books as far as I know. The Finishers, which is amazing, incredible photography, and interviews. All 15 needs to be updated, obviously. Finishers, and then there's the Ed Fortar classic, Tales from Out There, which is like a history of the Barkley, really. So they're the 2 books I know, and I was just sent one yesterday, which I'm going to fail to plug because I can't. You can see me looking around for it. I can't find it, but I will plug it on social media soon. There's a new book coming out, but no plans from me. I probably need a few more adventures.
There's another book in you, do you think, though?
Oh God, I wouldn't wish that on people. You've read my last one. It's really boring.
I enjoyed it. We have read it. I've read it, and I listen to the audiobook sometimes when I can't get to sleep.
Is that a compliment?
I do that with our podcast.
Well, thanks. Yeah.
We've got a few Patreon questions. Could we squeeze them in quickly?
No, Gary.
Of course.
So long.
We'll see how we go, and then we'll do the quick fire.
Do it.
Right, okay.
He's like an annoying.
I've got a Barkley book to write. No, it's fine.
Okay, right. Paul Whiteleg asks, have you ever drank so much tea during a race that you can feel and hear sloshing around inside your belly?
No.
No. Moving on. Dane Thatcher, seeing as yourself, Damian, and John are so close and literally seem mentally and physically equal, would you ever consider doing your own version of the Grand Round? Obviously, with John's time in mind.
Yeah, there was a time when I was asked that a lot. Usually, whether you're going to do it 8 days after him. I'm just not that excited about cycling on British roads, if I'm honest. I do cycle locally sometimes, but I've never. Since John has a triathlon background, so he loves all that. Yeah, it just doesn't really appeal. But I do love the idea that, so the original sort of what Mike Hartley did back in the, was it 70s or maybe 80s? Doing the 3 and driving between them. I love the idea that John's was, much more low carbon because he cycled. Yeah, it does. I do like the doing
a horse in between or something.
Oh, there we go. I was thinking skateboard or kite or something, but a horse.
Mix it up, maybe.
Have your power naps on a horse.
Horse.
Oh, can you imagine the chaffing?
No immediate plans for that one. No, sorry, just not into cycling on. Like if you could just close all the roads for me, I'd maybe do it.
Next one, Sharon Dyson. We all enjoyed Keith Dunn's tweets during the race. Have you managed to look back and have you had a chuckle with some of those tweets?
Yes. Hello, Sharon. Firstly, Sharon is amazing. For people who don't know her, she's helped me both on Pennine Way runs and she works on the Spine race as well. She's incredible. Yes, the amazing thing is I met him the morning before. So John Kelly kindly hosted a breakfast at Kelly Farm. Which is just outside Frozen Head, with Spinksy and Jasmine and Emma Stewart and Conrad and 2 or 3 others. And Keith Dunn was there as well. Awesome. And honestly, I was starstruck. I said I met all the other people. There was Feggy as well, who's a sort of Barkley legend, and I was happy to chat to him. And I was tongue-tied at Keith Dunn, but I embarrassed him over breakfast because I kind of said, Keith, in Britain, you're like a cult legend. You're the most famous person at this table. And I think, judging on Twitter followers, he would have been. And I think that just embarrassed him a bit because, like, what do you say to that, really, when someone says you're really famous? So that was a bit stupid. And then we didn't really say much to each other after that. So I feel...
like, stalker!
Yeah. And then, of course, I kept coming into camp to see him, so that must look weird. But I was glad not to be described as nondescript guy, although I probably could have been. And I think did he describe me as tall guy with a mohawk?
Mohawk, maybe he was tall guy.
Yeah, so I like Keith. Like, he thinks I'm tall, so that's pretty good. Thanks, Keith.
I remember at the Spine race when I threw myself at your feet to defrost your shoelaces.
Thank you. That was amazing.
You're welcome. But I remember running beside you, and then when I read the Keith's description, I thought, well, I'm quite short, but I don't remember Damian being like this strapping 6'2" bloke running beside me.
I'm not Francois Dane. No, I'm 5'9". That might be optimistic.
Full of muscle, rippling.
That's it.
Last one from our patrons. Martha Irwin asks, you mentioned this, I suppose, a bit earlier on, to be honest, but how did you decide on your Barkley tactics? Was that from the off, I suppose, you're all going to buddy up together, or you just hatched it on the day? Yeah,
I wasn't definitely trying to annoy John too much, but I was thinking I've got to stick to a veteran for at least a lap and learn all I can. And my idea was, I suppose, if it was comfortable pace for me to stick to the frontmost veteran, then if I get dropped, I can cling to the next veteran. I mean, I don't love thinking of this as a tactic normally in races, but the Barkley's pretty unique. And then again, if you get dropped, then hopefully another veteran behind, almost some safety nets of veterans. So that was my tactic for, I suppose, at least the first lap, and then just see how it went. But then at some point wanted to practice on my own, but maybe I left that a bit late until I was sort of sleep deprived, I suppose. So if I was to go back, I'd like to experiment more on my own, I suppose, and be more self-sufficient.
Is it like an unwritten rule that's okay, or do some runners almost kind of want to leave you to hang out to dry and find your own way?
I've heard that it depends on the person. Yeah, that some will be more, will guide you more than others. Some will spend more time. And I did ask John, like, what's annoying, what shouldn't you do, sort of thing, and like if someone's guiding you around, you shouldn't dash to the book first and then rip out your page and shoot off, and you shouldn't do anything that would delay them. and try and help. I suppose I was trying to help. I was trying to do bearings and chip in. He may dispute that side of things. But yeah, I've heard that some people aren't as helpful and some people are more helpful, but maybe I'll find out more next time.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time today. We have taken up far too much of it. But before we go, we've got our quick 5 questions. I didn't give you a heads up, actually. We ask all our listeners for an Instagram story song, but I didn't give you a chance to do some research. So every week, when we share our post or our podcast on social media, we will do it on Instagram, and then we have the joy we can attach a song to that, and it's up to you, John. Actually, Damian, sorry, you can.
Biggest insult. Wow.
That's the first time I've done that, Eddie.
So low.
What song would you like for us to use on our social media? Or we can guess. Eddie could choose, or I could choose.
Soundtrack to Last of the Mohicans, or
or Please do. My favourite film.
All right, then go on. Then I did. That's one of my pre-race films, actually. I don't know about you, but
I will find you, no matter how far.
Yes.
Yeah, but can we get 60 seconds on that? Is that going to be?
If not, then my favourite ever song is "Mr. November" by The National.
Okay, I will look for both of those, but really, it's
good job you picked that, Damian.
Daniel Day-Lewis. Oh, Daniel Day-Lewis.
And okay, are you a Star Wars fan?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go deep. I'll go into detail. You're at a Star Wars fancy dress party. You can have classic Star Wars Stormtrooper outfit as your chosen fancy dress, or you can be Empire Strikes Back Snowtrooper, Return of the Jedi speeder bike outfit. Which one are you going to go for?
Oh, Empire Strikes Back. That's the best film, and Hoth is the best scene in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, it is pretty wonderful. How are you on the Mandalorian? Do you enjoy that?
You know what? I'm watching that with my son now. Yeah, we're really enjoying that. And at World Book Day, which was recently, he went as the Mandalorian.
Excellent. Yeah,
we're
enjoying that. The Star Wars yet. I'm sort of triggered my fingers on the button for the kids to go. Is it scary? It's not really scary, is it?
No, a little bit of peril.
A little bit of peril. Peril's all right. Peril's better than kissing, which my kids find absolutely. Oh, if there's kissing, they're like, oh my God.
There's no kissing. Yeah. Well, no, there's Baby Yoda, basically. Baby Yoda. So he's unbearably cute, Baby Yoda. And then he, steals some eggs and things like that. But yeah, he's really sweet. Yeah, Baby Yoda. You want to watch it for Baby Yoda.
The latest episode I watched, I don't want to spoil it, but that little splinter story with an ex-Empire scientist. Are they kind of going to reintroduce that? Really good little thread. It's all going to come together.
Okay. Okay. Mm.
So World Cup final. Would you prefer to score the winning penalty, or would you be the goalkeeper that saves the losing pen?
Oh, that's a good question, isn't it? That's good, isn't it? I mean, both are good, aren't they? Let's go goalkeeper. Yeah, because they get a bit more credit, and rightly so, I think. Yeah. Okay, maximum glory. But I wouldn't do what Martinez did.
Someone's heart. You're going to see them in front of you crumble. You're ruthless. Underneath this lovely smiling.
Can I save it from John Kelly?
Okay, Phil Eve asks, if running was not available to you, what other lifestyle activity, hobby would you think you would have pursued?
Well, before I got into running, I was a little bit into mountaineering and a lot into sort of trekking, so long distance hike, long distance walks. So I'd probably be doing a fair bit of that still, which is fairly similar, just takes a bit longer. Yeah, I mean, I did used to play a lot of football, but I was pretty rubbish. And really, it's being out in nature and mountains and stuff. Sorry to be boring, but communing with nature, man, stuff like that.
Saturday or Sunday football, Damian?
No, it was always Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. Yeah. I mean, I was like sub for the school team usually, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I improved a bit, but yeah, Sundays. Yeah.
Okay. Jonathan Jameson asks, who would make up your perfect crew and why?
Well, I must admit, sorry to be predictable, but probably Dr. Nikki Ligo is amazing. And Sharon Dyson isn't far off either, actually.
Oh, she'll be swooning over that now.
They are both incredibly sort of selfless, very skilled, but also, very supportive as well. Because they're both brilliant. Either of those, or you guys, of course. I mean, if there's some shoe taking off to be done, Gary's my man. You're very skilled at that.
I couldn't wait to jump on people's feet. That was the right thrill, that was. Thank you. Okay, last quick five. Dave Ilano, the powers that be have decided to help climate change. You can't travel more than 50 miles to participate in any running events. Would you move? And if so, where in the UK or the world would it be?
Part of me saying Snowdonia and part of me saying Tennessee. I guess you want a big mountain range, don't you?
They're big, different places.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Aosta Valley because it's huge.
That's a very good call.
Yeah. I think, isn't that where Robbie and Natalie live now, the Gits?
Not far from there, yeah.
Okay. I'll go and live with them. They'll love that.
Boy, you've been a gent, Damian. So much time you've given up today. Really appreciate it, and our listeners will too. Thanks so much for your time today.
No problem at all. Thanks for the chats.
Thank you so much for the chat. Let's get kettle on. Refresh.
What a scoop. I can't believe we timed that so well. We reached out to Damian just after the spine race, but then obviously Barkley Marathons was on the horizon, so we had to reschedule. And to catch up with Damian as he's fresh-ish from the marathons. It was awesome. Hope you enjoyed that. I loved it.
What a treat. What a treat hanging with my best mate, Damo.
My favourite part of the show, Eddie, Tales from the Trails. I'm going to apologise immediately because I'm pretty sure I'm going to mess this name up. But our Strava leaderboard, I can't believe I'm actually looking at that. I'm not too sure. I've not done my usual stalking and digging behind the numbers, but 274 miles in a week. That must have been some event. I can't think what it was. But yeah, Gwen Van Tong, 274 miles in that week. And Gwen, again, 55 hours, 37 minutes and 7 seconds of exercise.
What is this? What is this? It's true? 55 hours?
Reach out if you let us know.
Record pace? Because Camille Herron broke the 48-hour world record. Gosh. Did you see a video of her? Because she looked slightly like she was limping.
Oh,
running.
Well, she's not got like a, don't take this the wrong way, Camille, if you're listening, but she's not got really like a fluid running style.
No, she's not. She runs a little bit like Paula Radcliffe.
Yeah.
I think it must be like the long, very slim limbs, isn't it, that is gangly.
But she's smoking fast, well.
And what I love about Camille is that she's not scared to try again, with all these world records. It's her second or third attempt. It's not just her first attempt that she's gone and done this. It takes her a couple of goes to get it right, and that's real bravery. I really admire that to go back, because having done really long stuff, to put yourself back in there,
when you know exactly what's in store. I don't. Yeah, the mental strength, and even with Damian, he's multiple spine racer. So, to do that over and over again and knowing exactly what's ahead is pretty impressive. Yeah, well done, Camille. And look who's topping the elevation charts. Previous guest of the show or a different podcast that we used to do. Carl Morris with 16,000 feet and 16,845 feet of elevation.
If you're listening with kids, you might just want to turn the volume down a little bit. Sean Stiles, episode 11, which was our PG episode, 18 episode. Episode 11 triggered this memory of mine. That episode was so funny. It was funny because it was just so silly. I was running along a trail that was a sort of gully with just trees and bushes separating me from a golf course on the left and farmers' fields on the right. As I was running along steadily, I like the way he puts in steadily. I wasn't just cruising. I was steadily running along. That's the sort of thing you'd say, Gary. In my own little world, I looked to my left, and suddenly there was an older gentleman relieving himself on the side of the golf course towards what I'm sure he thought was just some bushes between him and the farmers' fields. Oh, so he's let himself thinking doesn't know there's a path there. The thinned out wintry bush meant that his toucher was out in full view, and we made a split second of the most awkward eye contact I've experienced to date.
Eye to eye.
I toucher to toucher. I have no idea why, but as I carried on running, I decided to break the tension by saying, "Way!" As I carried on past, that's something that I'd do. As I carried on past, I could hear him talking to his mate behind me, and then both of them laughing in the distance. Oh, it's good that they're laughing. He's not as mortified as you were. What is this? People, older, middle-aged men, I know you need to pee a little bit more, but do try and find somewhere where we're not going to see it.
Yeah, you could talk. You were getting all your bits and bobs out when you're cold run.
I know. I not only was doing that, and I was like mid-trail, I'm going to have to go. And then I wouldn't have been able to be like him and sort of like turn away. I'd have been just like, I'm really sorry. You're just going to see everything. And it's winter, so it's not a thin wintry bush. Let's just...
Yeah, it was a wintry bush. Classic. Oh. What was good to hear, James Forbes reached out.
Oh, poor James. We can't go from wintry bush to
Wintry
James.
bush. But he just got in touch to say thanks to the tea and trails community. He's had a bumper week. I wonder if he's in trouble down the bakery though, because that's where he goes to.
Can you imagine? He's been there with his bowl, getting that cream. Like, oh God!
Wrecking the washing machine.
Denise from Rochdale, she needs this trench foot cream now. Come on.
But yeah, it's nice. It's nice to hear that everyone's been showing him some love and placing lots of orders. And I know bloody hell, must be about 4 just personal friends have been using it. And Lisa Robinson, who just completed the almost 55, she said that cream saved her feet on what was a wet day.
Everybody doing yoga, putting their trench foot cream on. I love it. The influence we have, Gary.
My Dexel socks, they arrived.
Oh, my Dexel socks, they are total. I need to find a summer sock now, everybody. This is not Tales from the Trails. This is totally ad-libbing. I need to find a summer sock. I love the Dex shells, but in the summer when you're sweating, what's a good summer sock? What do you reckon, Gary?
I don't know. Yeah, I was thinking this. My Dex shells, they arrived from
I like a bit of
Centurion.
thickness. I like a bit of thickness of my sock. I don't like a lightweight sock. So if you do get a little bit of grit or something in your shoe, you can't really feel it. And I use Belize socks a lot, but my toenails, my toes go through them. What do you use, guys? Let me know.
Right, bear with me. This is a lot of text for Gary to read.
But we like to encourage him to read it because,
It's my fears.
Yeah, face your fears. Do it head on. And we're here. We're a supportive community. We won't judge. We won't laugh.
Don't laugh at me. Let's see if I can do it. See if I can do it in one take.
I've read it, so I'm excited. I've just read the first two.
Well, Nicola Conway reached out with very funny, actually, tales from the trail. So yeah, here we go. I was out with my dog Jagger, and after climbing one of the eastern fells, I found myself amid a fashion shoot for the high street brand Jules. You heard of Jules?
Yeah, it's posh, Gary. It's really posh.
It's not Geordie Jeans. You wouldn't have even heard of Geordie Jeans, would you? They were very popular in the Northeast.
Like sort of ladies' rugby shirts and polo shirts.
Oh, okay.
Yes. You often find it in garden centres.
Oh,
When they like random clothes in garden centres.
I've never made a clothes purchase, apart from gloves, maybe.
In a garden centre, no. I always look at it. I used to spend a lot of time in garden centres when I had kids in prams, and you're just wandering around looking at fish and stuff. Anyway, sorry, Nicola, we've digressed.
Production stopped, but not because the team were in awe of my drag through a hedge backward look, but because of Jagger and his model type swagger. The model swooned on him, and the director asked if he could accompany them on the shoot. Oh my goodness, this is so exciting. So there I was amongst what felt like the cast of Britain's Next Top Model, and I was standing there, wish I hadn't had the double helping of chips the night before, and feeling significantly shorter than everybody else. I feel your pain, Nicola. That is my life. That is even more randomly. I glanced over and saw my friend Joe Faulkner surrounded by all of these glamorous models, like Hugh Hefner of the film. It transpired Nav4 were overseeing logistics, and Joe was their fountain of knowledge for all things mountain related. which was serious business, particularly if models were to become cragfast on the catwalk. The plot thickened as Joe was cross-examined about his knowledge, and survival questions arose, such as if he knew of any mystical tales from the trails, like leprechauns roaming on the hillside, and what to do if you were to come across one. This is very surreal. All very surreal, and now deep in conversation with Joe and the who's who of the modelling about Irish folklore on top of a Lake District fell. It was the day after a heat wave in the height of summer, and Jagger was about to find fame modelling for Jules' winter range. Oh, poor Jagger. When planning for the unexpected, I did not envisage this. The director dropped off the fell, not literally, to get a phone signal to call head office to seek permission. My mind was racing, wondering what coat or piece of clothing I could pimp Jagger out for. As a child, getting a pair of socks from Jules was considered a luxury Christmas stocking filler. Now I need a new wardrobe just for the socks. After about 30 minutes, the news broke that as Jagger was uninsured and unlicensed to model, oh no, he would not be able to join them on the shoot. Sadly, it was not his day for stardom. Nevertheless, it was all very random and added to what was a truly memorable day on the trails. What a story. Poo and Jagger. Moral of that story is, if you've got a pretty dog, get it insured and licensed.
Nicola, can you tell us, send us a picture of Jagger? I want to see his beauty, what sort of dog he is. Sorry, you never got some Jules kit. Love the way that's exactly the way Gary's mind would have been working too. What kit? Get.
That's harsh, Eddie.
I mean, they'd have probably just asked me to model. They'd have been like, "Whoa, there! Step back, you beautiful 6-foot models. Let's get this."
Yeah, and we're probably both a few inches too short for modeling.
We love your stories. We love a story, don't we? We love a story with a start, a middle, and the end. We love a bit of nakedness in the story. If you've got a good story to share, send us an email. Please send us an email, because otherwise they might get lost in the ether if it goes via Instagram or Facebook at hello@tandtrails.com, and share funny little anecdotes. If anything, one, they really amused Gary and I, but also I think sometimes they make people feel a bit better if something slightly goes awry on a run, that they're not the first person this has happened to. They're not the first one to see a todger through a thin wintry bush. We've all been there.
Yeah, if they involve body parts, they'll get bumped to the top of the list.
Such children.
Yeah.
Big competition time. Big competition. This is one of our, it's going to be popular, Gary. People are going to go crazy for this one. We have got a pair of Scarpa trail shoes to give away. Woo-hoo! Wow. I've had some Scarpa trail shoes and I really enjoyed them. I liked the cushioning. The grip was immense. They're quite similar to a Scott Trail shoe, if you're kind of thinking of the sort of vibe, maybe slightly more grippy. 3 things you need to do. Okay, you need to be a member of our Tea and Trails Facebook group. Over on that Facebook, I will put a post and ask you why you think you should win a pair of these shoes. You can explain in a written form. You can explain with a picture. Be inventive. It's be inspirational. Think of what will stand out on the thousands of entries we're bound to get. Why you think you should win a pair of shoes, and then share the competition post with your mates on Facebook. We will pick a winner on the 9th of April.
I absolutely love a 5-star review, and we've got quite a few to read out this week. So I'll start. Paulius Peculiar, great trail and ultra podcast. Light-hearted yet serious, with great hosts and guests. Never gets boring. Thanks for that. Next one is from Fegel via Apple Podcasts.
I read it in my head as phlegm.
Fegel, there we go. Top running content, great interviews, and just so enjoyable to listen to. Saved for my long run every week. Thanks, Edwina and Gary. Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for saying thanks. Thank you. Lego. I've got one over from Grace Robinson. Dear Eddie and Gary, I've just become a Patreon member and I'm very happy to increase my subscription as £3 a month seems so little for everything you do for me. Oh, Grace. I've just discovered Tea and Trails, having listened to your previous iteration, and have just binged the whole lot from episode 1. Crikey.
Oh, wow.
And yes, I cried during Eddie's spine race episode. Okay, we're all there. I see you both as friends. Hope that doesn't sound too weird. Of course not. We are your friend. And hugely value the informed, funny, and often inane chatter. You are both hugely inspiring, especially Eddie. Sorry, Gary.
Oh,
as
right.
I also juggle. We all know that one day it's going to be like, I'm afraid Gary's gone. It's going to be like your sort of breakfast news, and they go, sorry, Grace, we've digressed. You're both inspiring, especially Eddie. Sorry, Gary. Sorry to read that bit again. As I also juggle the life, running, childcare with doctoring, and you won't find me on any social media forum, as this is the one way to find time to do it all. All the best, and keep up the good work. You guys keep me going. Dr. Grace Robinson. No.
Oh, thanks for that.
Us going. Thanks for being
Yeah.
a patron. Thanks.
Thanks for being a patron. That's awesome.
And thanks for the lovely review. And it does take a lot of work, this podcast, especially for Gary. And sometimes I think I can't do it anymore, Gary. I think I can't. It's too much time. It's too much effort. The mental, like, what am I going to talk about? I've got nothing to talk about. But then we get little messages like that, and I think,
Oh, it's wonderful. If I have one pinch point problem area with the podcast, I don't feel I give it as much time as I'd like to. With all of the, with all the,
if it was like a full time,
yeah.
you could just do this, and then but how would we make it better? How do you make this better?
I think normal shows and stuff have like a script and maybe even a rehearsal and stuff like that.
You can't rehearse this, Gary. If we rehearsed it, it would be it'd be too stilted.
Yeah.
It's of the innate chat.
Sometimes I wish I could just give it a bit more time.
Yeah, a bit more time, and I think I could be a bit wiser, because I think really wise stuff sometimes when I'm running, and I think, okay, I'm going to go into this deep on the podcast, and then I get home and it's
Start talking about your wintry bush.
Oh, for goodness sake. I know I've got to sort it out. I've got to sort it out, because soon the swimming pool will open and I won't have sorted it out. Then Evie will ask questions. Please don't laugh that much. Move on.
Moving on.
Look what's coming up, Gary. This is funny. 3 by 8 minute hills for you. I did 4. Just saying. Don't feel bad.
Well, I might do 4 because the recovery.
You couldn't do 4.
I couldn't do 4. Because the recovery's so big. Because if I had a 36-minute hill, I'd keep going up and up and up, but I need to go back down.
Yes, I sometimes think, am I undoing this session, because it takes me, especially when the track, like this morning, the track was so icy, so it took me ages to come back down.
Yeah.
But it took me like 5 minutes, where normally you could get down like in 2 minutes. It took me so long to get back down to do the 8-minute back up, but then I think that's all just good. It's just a bit of extra volume in the session. That's what I look at it like.
I'm not going to pull it apart too much if I do 4 or 3. To be honest, though, I've got a threshold run, which is about 25 minutes threshold on my lovely 1K sandwiched in between my 2 10 minutes of threshold. I do like that session, but I might leave that for Thursday if a few other guys want to join me with our little group that we have on Thursday. So yeah, threshold run or the 3 times 8 minutes. I'm not too sure which one I'll do. And long run too. I'm enjoying on a Sunday to get like a longer session in. If we're not going to the lakes, I've started doing these hikey jogs up these 2 short hills that we've got. And wow, you can get, I think we did like 3,000 feet of elevation in about 8 miles. So it's pretty good. So, and then also that isn't a running day. It's movement, but it's not a big running day. So it saves my achy legs. So yeah, that's it for the sessions. And I wondered actually, is there any difference between, because of the Dragon's Back race and trying to manage myself at the end of the day, put my compression tights on, little things like that. I do feel they benefit me, but is there any difference?
What a thought.
Is there any difference between a compression recovery tight and a regular compression tight? Do you know?
Marketing?
Yeah, this is it. It's literally just that's the difference.
I
Probably.
reckon there's probably better ones. I always found the 2XU ones were the best ones I've ever found.
Yeah.
But the only problem I found with compression tights on multi-day is that they are quite hard to get on and off. And I would sometimes get cramp. Maybe not getting them on, but definitely getting them off then in the morning, the old hip flexors.
Yeah.
I know that's stupid, but I did find the last couple of days I'd be like, I'm not putting them on because I cannot get them off. They're a bit like Excel knee-length socks. You're just like...
They were quite tough to get on.
Yeah, but anyway. No, I don't think there's a ton of... I think they're probably just the way they're worded.
And I've got a mini goal for the week. I'd like to lift heavy twice this week. I seem to let that slip quite often. And I've worked it out basically. If I don't do it during like Monday to Friday, the weekends are so precious that I don't make the journey to the gym. So I went yesterday. I know the show will be out on Friday. We record it on a Tuesday. I went yesterday, so I've got a good head start. I just want to get that second one in before Saturday and Sunday. Because I think, I'll actually see some proper gains if I can get too consistent.
Gains. I want the gains.
I've increased my weight on my trap bar. 40 kilos now with the actual trap bar weight too. So that's probably about my weight. I think so I'm kind of deadlifting my own weight.
Usually like no heavier, Gary. You know, the floor's not strong enough for these sort of weights.
Well, yeah, they're still tiny weights. When I look to my right and the other people on the various machines, and oh my goodness me, there was some guy there doing, it was a proper like a squat, like sitting into it, and he was pushing the weight like upwards. He could not physically get any more weight on the machine. It was quite a sight.
He was making proper gains.
Yeah, he was making a lot of noises too.
Oh, God's sake.
But yeah, I think that's it for my week. Hopefully get 2 weight sessions in. But that is me. Yeah. What about yourself, Eddie?
Another week. Come on, let's start this progress. Let's get that Strava line up, Gary. Not having one child tried to make out they were sick this morning. I was like, nope, not having any of that. You'll just have to go to school. I'm not having any more sick, injured children. We are Eddie. Mummy's got to work. She's got to work. So I've done my hill reps already. I like you preloading the week, I've got some mates. You always talk about all these mates you run with. Do you know how often I get to train with people, Gary? About once every 3 weeks. It's so hard. It's not so hard. I just got used to it, but I do love training with friends. We went off yesterday and I had to get up at 5 o'clock to do my run, but then we skied the powder all morning, and by the time we skied back down to the car, my legs were a goner. So hopefully enjoying, and I this time of year normally I'm really ski fit and I could be like, I don't get tired legs, but I think we just haven't had the snow, so I haven't skied. And I haven't skied hardly any powder because we haven't had hardly any powder. But I'd had Bryn had serviced my skis for me. So they were waxed and edged.
Oh, that sounds exciting. How did you service skis?
I was crushing at some of those blue peas. It was incredible. So another good week. So I've got mates. Anyway, I digress. I've got mates for my long run, so that's lovely. It's less of an onerous task, or we've got to run kind of the same sort of trails if you've got mates, because you can just chat away. So yeah, my 10 by 3 minutes, my long run, catch up on life a little bit. We've got quite a lot of podcast admin backed up, so doing that as well, and some big ski races for the kids. Hopefully they're not going to be cancelled because of the poor snow. A few of them have already been cancelled. Hopefully the bigger ones we'll be on. And then next week is the last week of winter here, last week of skiing. Thank God. I've been getting up every day at 6:30 since December to get the kids skiing. So I am so looking forward to a lion.
You can go for a burger. You'll get a table this time too.
It all shuts, Gary. Literally, the place shuts. Yeah. So that's why we went out, because they shut everything and nothing will be open. Not even Carrefour is open. In May.
No way.
Yeah, everything is shut. The only thing open is the boulangerie. So no hardship there. I found that really hard when we first moved here, because there's literally nothing. It's dead. It's dead. It's so quiet. But actually now I love it. I love. Everybody goes away. It's totally quiet. And then June comes and they reopen everything for mountain bikers. You're kind of ready for that. And they open the small ones. Anyway, onwards, upwards, everybody have a good week.
Thanks so much for listening to the show. Thanks to our partners and Patreons. One last favour to ask. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and a share would be ace. Also, a big thanks to our show sponsor, Silver.
Talking of Silver, Silver's sponsor the Northern Traverse and the Lake Traverse, and entries are open for 2024. I'm trying to get the crew back together. My Leon and David, my spine angels. I think Leon has signed up, and we're knocking on David's door saying, "Come on," but he's got bigger fish to fry, and he's not interested. But I am up for the Northern Traverse. Anybody else who's going to sign up? Looking forward to seeing us. Oh, it's a spicy entry list this year, and we're looking forward to interviewing some people when they've done it, because I like post race interview. It's nice to know people, talk to people before, but I also really like to know how the races have gone, how it's fun. I often find that quite inspiring if I'm thinking about doing a race. So we look forward to chatting to a few people. If you are doing the race, best of luck to you. Let us know how you get on.
Yeah, I've got a few. Flora Beverly doing the lakes, and double James doing the full spine. James Nobles and James Forbes doing the full Northern Traverse race. So yeah, best of luck to everybody out there. And that is it for another show. Stay safe on the trails, run wise, run well, and don't overdo it. Listen to...
Don't do 4 reps.
We'll see. I always do. Oh, I think it's going to be 4 if I do it.
It's not that. Also, with 8 minutes, because it's that bit, it's not a 5 minute.
Yeah.
You have to really build into it, don't you? So 4 is sort of a good, you're going to get that heart rate in the zone.
I say 8 minutes. There's basically, it'll be point to point. So it could be 7.5, it could be 8:15, depending on what the how fast we are running. But yeah, you need to build into it. So yeah, if you just did 3, it's like, oh, that first one didn't go too well.
Yeah, I find the first one as well, with me old legs, rusty old legs, takes me a little time, and I'm a bit nervous about the volume of it. So I always slightly hold back that first one, or else it just feels easier because it's first one. And then the last one, I like to think I go for it on the last one. It still takes me 8 minutes to get to the same point. I'm like, I just worked really hard on that one. There was no difference. Anyway, sorry, carry on with the...
That's okay. Where was that? Okay. No. Make sure you fuel and refuel with lots of tea or whatever beverage takes your fancy. We won't judge. My name is Gary Thwaites.
I'm Eddie Sutton.
And that was episode 16 of Tea and Trails.